requires structural reform and not incremental adjustments. I take note of the Ghana Chamber of Mines' recent report that says that Ghana is losing competitively in investment to Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria. There are many areas we need to look at as outlined in the report. Areas like corporate taxation, electricity tariffs and stable power, duties on machinery and equipment, and several other factors. In the last week, we have had to take the painful but necessary decision to revise the producer price of cocoa to achieve competitive pricing and resolve the acute liquidity challenges in the sector. Mr. Speaker, failure to do this as others did and left a debt of 32 billion for this government to pay. Failure to do this would have meant borrowing billions in borrowed funds. Mr. Speaker, this unplanned expenditure would have taken us right back to the very devastating economic problem we have only recently begun to escape. So, Mr. Speaker, while fully understanding the concerns and protests of our farmers, I can firmly assure them that the reforms announced by government will see a total transformation of the cocoa sector. And it will guarantee them a fair and transparent price that enables them to meet the cost of producing the commodity and making decent margins. Mr. Speaker, the difference between economic hardship and avoiding the same is the exercise of sound economic judgment. And I'm determined to take decisions that ensure our collective well-being and avoid the suffering of all our citizens. These are difficult decisions to take, but Mr. Speaker, I had to take them. We did not arrest the dollar. We strengthened the CD to put up a good fight against the other currencies. I can say to you with confidence, Ghana is back. Ghana is working again. And Ghana is open for business. Mr. Speaker, our nation is on the runway. It is in takeoff mode. And you are all advised to fasten your seat belts.
Seriously, so most of my colleagues are in contempt of the law, and so see this one, see this one. They There are a number of those spots that were unripe. And you know, technically, we are not aware of this, but technically it's against the law. But be it as it may, I think that it was a good presentation of the message on the state of the nation. The president took time to go along a lot of the sectors. I was so excited that the report on the agriculture sector is so impressive. Food price inflation has come down drastically. Now food price inflation contribution is about 4% and so on. And so this is so significant. It's supporting the purchase power of the average Ghanaian, and so we are able to now afford more income. But more importantly, he also announced investments in the sector, the green gold, coke, the oil palm, and other related sectors, so that we can diversify the base of our productive capacity.
You look at what is happening to the economy now, you look at the exchange rate, you look at the stability of the cedi against major currencies, and you look at the reserves that we have today. As the president alluded to, there is no doubt about the fact that Ghana is moving the right direction. I, as a member of parliament and also as a Ghanaian, I feel so proud and I feel so inspired by the good leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and it is my prayer that God will continue to guide him. I believe that when it comes to Medina constituency, for example, we have one of the biggest markets in Ghana, and the effect of stability can be seen in the market. People knew how much they used to buy rice, and they know they are buying it now. People knew how much they used to buy. People knew how much they used to buy oil, and they know how much they are buying it now. And so we in Medina are actually feeling the effect of the economic stability. We are praying that under the other infrastructural projects, very, very soon, most of the interventions with the 24-hour market, intervention with road infrastructure, Medina will begin to see it, and like the president said, very soon the entire country is going to be a construction site.
We come to health. This is a president that is walking the talk, investing 34 billion cedis in health. 34.7 billion cedis. We've never had that kind of investment in health. But for his visionary leadership, when the US aid was withdrawn in a lot of areas, we will not have been able to vaccinate our population. We will not be able to take care of our good self, but the president has been able to deliver. So I see it as a summary of a very honest delivery and one that inspires hope. He has told us what he has done, what he inherited, what he has done, and has assured us that the nation is about to take off. And we look forward to that takeoff phase. We are all willing to put our shoulders to the wheel to help him and his cabinet to be able to move Ghana to the next level.
Upon assumption of office, the minimum price they will pay for cocoa per bag, that is the producer price or the farm gate price, will be 6,000 Ghana cedis. Today, they have rather reduced the price of cocoa per bag, making the poor cocoa farmer worse off. We are aware that when it comes to electricity, they have increased electricity tariffs between 25 to 30%. Even so, in practical terms, households and industries are worse off because they are paying more on electricity and it is biting them very hard. On Monday, we are going to bring to the attention of the country our comprehensive submission on the true state of the economy, on the true state of the nation. But for now, we conclude by saying that this government is only fixated on PR gimmicks and is only interested in political rhetorics rather than real action and creating opportunity for all Ghanaians. Thank you.
As part of an annual event, the Socialist Movement of Ghana commemorated the first president, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, reflecting on his successes and the event leading to his overthrow, observed as Ghana's Day of Shame. The theme for this year's commemoration was 60 years after Ghana's Day of Shame, Imperialism on the Rampage. It was attended by notable figures such as a lecturer at the University of Cape Coast and chairperson of the National Media Commission, Professor Ekua Opokwa Brichum, General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., leader of the Black Panther Party, Comrade Duruba Bin Wahad, among others. Delivering a speech at the event, Director of the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, Dr. Collins Rollins Nunyo Name, stated emphatically that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was not overthrown due to dictatorship or corruption, but rather for his success against imperialism.
Dr. Nkrumah was not overthrown because he failed, not because he was corrupt, not because he was the dictator as the lies have been peddled against him, show or try to portray. He was overthrown precisely because he was succeeding against imperialism. He was pursuing African unity because he knew that only a united Africa can succeed in liberating itself from imperialism. The CIA files, Madam Chair has alluded to them. The declassified CIA files are there to prove it. That he was feared. They feared his example. They feared his success so much that with the help of internal collaborators, they removed him.
Chief operator of the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum in New York, Dr. Kofi Boateng, opined that the underlying factor of imperialism was racism, an issue the late sociologist, author, and civil rights activist never shied away from.
And when you talk about imperialism, the underlying part of imperialism is racism, something of which Dr. Du Bois never shied away from. Indeed, Dr. Du Bois, in his book that made him very famous, The Souls of Black Folks, said in chapter 2 that the problem of the 20th century is the color line.
Leader of the Black Panther Party, Comrade Duruba Bin Wahad, and General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana, Kwesi Pratt Jr., also took turns to address the audience.
Alliances only balkanize Africa. Africa must unite. Africa must have its own common minerals market. Africa must have its own central bank, its own centralized military. Only in this respect can we resist the ideal and the notion of the West that might makes right. That with the military, you can take what you want from whoever you want, and there's no consequence. So I want to close with this. If tomorrow the United States goes to war in Iran, against Iran, what would we do? What position would we take?
And I like to salute the W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Foundation for identifying with the celebration of the Day of Shame this year. I also like to acknowledge that the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park has officially identified itself with the celebration of the Day of Shame this year. This is significant progress. Just the fact that we have met here today to observe the Day of Shame is a major victory. It's a major victory. Think about where we came from. I remember 1966, when my uncles and aunties were burying everything that was CPP and Nkrumah.
On Thursday, February 24, 1966, Ghana's first Prime Minister and President, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was ousted in a bloody code named Operation Cold Chop, led by Commander of the 2nd Infantry Brigade, Colonel Emmanuel Kwesi Kotoka and Major Akwesi Amankwa Efrifa from Jorulu. Daniel Kwabna Ansari's report read to you.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
Well, good morning and thank you very much for choosing Pan-African Television. Of course, you've also chosen Radio Gold 90.5 FM. We're bringing you together the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji&Alhaji. Like I said, we are live on TV, Pan-African Television, not only in Ghana, but many other countries across the world. We are also live on social media, Pan-African Television on YouTube, Pan-African Television on Facebook. You can watch us on both platforms. Then you can listen to us on radio. That is Radio Gold 90.5 FM, your power station. And of course, you can also listen to radio other affiliate radio stations. We're having a discussion on the state of Ghana as delivered by the president yesterday. We're taking the views of our panelists on the things he talked about. Of course, obviously, the economy was on the front burner. He also talked about the issue of cocoa, talked about health, talked about roads. Many issues were addressed in that State of the Nation's address. And of course, spent some time on the issue of Operation Recover or Loot and the progress it was making. And reminded all of us that the wheel of justice grinds slowly. Like Professor Mill said, and he quoted him, it grinds just fine. Well, we'll be discussing that to start off our discussion today, and also move into a discussion that has to do with the health sector, the state of Ghana's health sector, especially in the wake of discussions around emergency health care. If you are confronted with an emergency situation, taken to the hospital, how do hospitals usually react to you? That has been the debate this week. Well, the president says no one, absolutely no one, should turn away anybody in an emergency situation, no matter what, how. Even if you have to develop makeshift circumstances to treat them, do that. But that you should not turn away persons with emergency conditions. And then this week, in case you missed it, February 24th was exactly 60 years since the overthrow of the Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The day of shame. The Socialist movement of Ghana, as they've been doing for the better part of over a decade, led the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of the overthrow of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Those are the three issues we'll be talking about this morning. And let me start with the familiar, those you know, when it comes to this show, but not specifically when it comes to the platform of Pan-African Television. I'm sure you've seen them on other programs. Of course, lawyer Andrew Appiah Dankwa is Director Legal of the United Party, UP+. And also there's Adam Sabo Abdul Rahman, who is Director of Communications for the MPP in the Greater Accra region. Sitting to my left is Dr. Aminu Shitu. I'm sure you've seen him on another program on this platform. He's someone I've spoken to a couple of times on Radio Gold, mostly on security issues. He used to work with the UN as a peacekeeping officer. And we're joined by Dr. Sami Aye, one of the rising stars of NBC Communication. And it's nice to have him in studio. He's also a trained physician. Yes, he's a trained physician, but has decided that he wants to do politics. I don't know whether... Do you get time to practice?
Oh, of course.
You do practice? Oh, that's nice. Nice to hear. Well, so that's my panel for today. And a big part of the show is you. Do share your thoughts with us. What do you think when we start the discussions? Do share what you think with us. But this morning, just by way of information, because I've been trying to keep up with these developments over the past 1 hour, the US president has spoken about it. And of course, we're also hearing from the Israelis. The Israelis said they've launched a preemptive attack on Iran. And Iran has responded. And this is the BBC 17 minutes ago. What we know about the joint US-Israel attack on Iran. In fact, there are many other news outlets that are reporting this. Say the US and Israel have launched an attack on Iran. US President Donald Trump has described ongoing major combat operations and called for Iranian government forces to lay down their arms. Earlier, Israel's defense minister said Israel had launched a preemptive attack against Iran, with explosions heard across the country. This comes after weeks of threats and negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. And shortly after 9:30 Tehran time, that's 6 o'clock GMT, so this morning, Iranian media reported explosions in the capital. Pictures seen by the BBC show smoke over the city's Jomhuri Square and Hassan Abbas Square. Explosions were also reportedly heard in multiple other cities across the country, including Isfahan, Qom, Karaj, and Kermanshah. The extent of any casualties or injuries are unknown at this point. Iran's airspace has been closed since the attacks, so there's a lot. Meanwhile, in Israel, sirens were heard across the country at 8:15 local time. That's 6:15. Within 15 minutes, Iran had responded, alerting people of the threat of a possible retaliatory missile attack from Iran. People have been warned against gatherings and going to school and work unless it is essential. There's a lot that's happening in such a short period of time. So we'll be trying to follow and give you updates, yes, but it's not the discussion. You know, on this platform, we do not think Ghana is an island. And so we do not have discussions only in Ghana. We're also concerned about the continent, concerned about the world in general. So we'll be giving you updates as we go along in the show. But let's start with the State of the Nation's address. And I'd like to start with Sami Aye on this. In fact, it came from their corridors. The National Democratic Congress is now in power. Doc.
Yes. Good morning to you, good morning to our viewers, and good morning to my senior co-panelists. Yesterday, the President delivered the State of Nations address as in Article 67 of our 1992 Constitution that mandates the President to deliver a message on the State of Nations. And I listened to the President yesterday. He delivered the true state of a nation that is bouncing back from years of misgovernance, from 8 years of nepotism, 8 years of incompetence, and sheer lack of empathy for the people of Ghana. That was the state of Ghana before we came. When we came, indeed, we were reeling under intense economic difficulties. You had unsustainable debt position crippling, or even with crippled inflation rates. You understand? That was destroying businesses. We had a situation where we were seeing constant depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi, wiping away businesses and increasing cost of living. That was the state of this country. Indeed, when you look at the figures alone, SENA, you would agree that when we came, you had a policy rate of 28%. Banks were doing about 35 to 40% of interest rates. No serious country that is interested in making sure businesses thrive will have an interest rate that high. Today we are looking at a policy rate of 15.5%. We met an inflation of 23.8%. In record time, in a space of 1 year, we are doing 3.8%. We came to meet a debt to GDP ratio of about 61.5%. Today we are doing about 45.3%. Our national debt has actually reduced by about 82 billion Ghana cedis in a space of 1 year. Our budget deficit before we came was doing about 7.9%. Today we are doing about 3.1%. For the first time, you know, over the years, our cedi had constantly been depreciating. In fact, in some quarters, I've heard senior members of the MPP say that the depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi is an annual ritual. It means that it is unheard of that we will see the cedi actually appreciating. But we have seen for 2025, averagely, the cedi appreciated to the dollar about 40.7%. It appreciated against the British pound about 30.9%, and against the euros about 24%. We have seen that in 1 year, how we have been able to manage our exchange rate to a point that we have had significant benefit as far as fuel prices are concerned, and many Ghanaians on social media have reacted to it. That they used to buy a liter at 16 Ghana cedis, today they are doing about 10.9, 10.7 Ghana cedis because of the gains we made in our exchange rates. You understand the point I'm making? I can go on. There are many indices. In fact, when we came, we were doing a primary balance of about negative 3.25%. We set a target of 1.5 and delivered 2.6%. You understand the point I'm making? There are many of those things I can make mention. We came to meet a GDP of about $83 billion. Today we are doing about $113 billion. International reserves, we came to meet it at $8.89 billion. Today we are doing about $13.8 billion, moving an import cover to 5.7 months. The point I'm making is that before, one of the most fundamental indicators of the performance of a government is to look at the economy. And on the economy alone, any objective person who wants to make an objective analysis will come to the inevitable conclusion that on the economy alone, President Mahama has performed creditably well. And we have a long way to go. You know that just a day before the State of Nation, the Finance Minister actually presented a bill to Parliament, the Ghana Reserve Accumulation Program, where we are looking at an import cover of about 15 months so that we can hold our currency, stabilize the currency, so that business community can plan and know that between this time and this, I will be doing an exchange rate of about this particular, figure. They can plan, they will not have exchange rate losses when they are conducting their businesses. And when you have a resilient economy with a resilient currency, definitely the people will reap in significant benefits from it. The president also made mention of several improvements we've seen in some other sectors of the economy. Health alone, we uncapped NHIL. We've increased funding to NHIL to about over 9 billion Ghana cedis. Today, NHIL does not own claims. In fact, I have heard the CEO call on health facilities to bring their claims for payment. Because of that, NHIS coverage has increased from 57% to 66% in 1 year. Last year alone, there were about 650,000 enrollment onto national health insurance. We have made several payments as far as allowances of trainees are concerned. We've employed about 13,500 nurses, and we are going to do more. Plans are also underway in completing some of the Agenda 111 hospitals for the benefit of the people of Ghana. On the education sector, about 152,000 first-year students from universities, training college, and nursing training have benefited from our no-fee stress policy. The president has indicated that this year it will move to 220,000. All these are Ghanaian people who we believe that because of the financial constraint that many Ghanaians have suffered over the years, we are trying to cushion them. The way and manner. You know, Africa EduWatch brought some data that between 2022 and 2023, about 400,000 students completed secondary schools. Out of that, only about 125,000 were able to go to school. Because when you are given admission, you are given about just 2 weeks to pay your fees. How many people can mobilize 4,000 cedis in 2 weeks to pay their fees? When I completed secondary school, and I got admission to University of Cape Coast Medical School, there was a colleague from Opokwari, my classmate, who also got admission to University of Health and Allied Sciences. He was supposed to pay a fees of about 5,000 Ghana cedis at the time. They couldn't pay. Because of that, he couldn't go to medical school. And so this policy is far-reaching, and I know that going forward, a lot of substantial benefits will be reaped from it. I heard the president that a number of school buildings will be put up. You know that in 2025, the largest funding to free SHS happened since the inception of the program. In the last 1 year, we've seen smooth operationalization of free SHS. Funding have been going, feeding have been, smooth, and we've not had any hitches from the implementation of the program. And that shows significant commitment of the president to this program. In energy, we've kept the lights on. We paid about $1.47 billion in energy debt payments. You recall that when we came, the World Bank guarantee in our exploratory system, about 500 million had been withdrawn because government was owing left, right, center in that sector. When we came, about $512 million of that amount has been paid, and that guarantee has been brought back. We also paid about $500 million in debts owed to ENI and Vitol on gas supplies alone. We've maintained and started, judiciously operationalizing the cash waterfall mechanism that over the years had not been complied with. Today, IPPs receive significant amount of money at the end of every payment so that they can keep our lights on. There are a few hitches that, technical issues that many communities have been experiencing, but it's an ongoing problem that for many years have been around. There are many places where for many years wiring and other things have not been done in a way, a manner that keeps the lights on. I know there are a lot of electrification programs ongoing. The rural electrification index has actually increased to about 89.5% since we came. Over 130 communities have now been connected to the national grid. A whole lot is happening in the energy sector. Yesterday, I heard the president made mention of a renewable energy program in the Dawa industrial zone. A whole lot of things are currently ongoing. I can go on and on and on. In fact, in the road sector alone, the president made mention that yesterday about 73 road projects are currently ongoing under the Big Push program, where many major roads are being worked upon, including the feasibility studies for the Accra-Kumasi Express Highway. Over 10 billion Ghana cedis has been paid to contractors whom government owe. 10 billion Ghana cedis in debts have been paid. There are several sectors that have benefited from government's initiative, and I know that going forward, things will be better. The president also made mention of the reforms that have been carried out in the cocoa sector, and the point must be made that the whole idea of these reforms is to position cocoa board in a way that it will be resilient and will respond appropriately when shocks like this come. This morning you heard that from tomorrow, no, I heard it yesterday, that Reuters reported that from tomorrow, Cote d'Ivoire, they will be doing about 980 to 1,200 Ghana cedis in terms of their currency per bag. We are doing 2,500. They will be doing 980 Ghana cedis to 1,200 Ghana cedis. The point is that you know that the president actually relieved about 4.35 billion Ghana cedis from the books and has given it to Rose Ministry because of the about 26 billion debt that was accrued at Cocoa Board in terms of cocoa rows. The then government was asked to rationalize it to about 6 billion. They didn't do. When we came, we had to do that. And with the support of Cocoa Board management, that debt has been rationalized to 4.3 billion Ghana cedis, and I'm giving to Rose and Highways. There are debts that Cocoa Board also owes Finance Ministry. That debt has also been lifted and given to Finance Ministry. The whole idea is to give Cocoa Board a fiscal space, allow them to consolidate the little that they have. Government has also initiated plans to raise local bonds for Cocoa Board so that we don't have to be bound by the syndicated loan system where you are mortgaging your cocoa, you don't even have the platform to process the cocoa in Ghana. Now the president has directed that 50% of our produce in cocoa should be processed in Ghana by the cocoa market, a cocoa processing company. PBC will also be strengthened. You know that last week, PBC actually issued a statement that they had opened their branches all across the country and they are expecting cocoa farmers to come forward. It has been a long-standing issue as far as cocoa is concerned. And I know that all these things, or the gains we've made as a country in the last 1 year, has been because of decisive leadership. Some of them are very painful, but extremely necessary, like the cocoa sector. I know that the intention of this government to present a new cocoa board bill so that 70% of the prices of cocoa will be accrued to cocoa farmers. Now it will be automatic. It will not be at the whim of any government. It will be automatic the moment. So if prices go to $10,000, the farmers are getting $7,000. It is a promise the people of Ghana, His Excellency the President has made cocoa farmers, and that bill will be presented to Parliament for subsequent approval and operationalization by the government. And so a lot has gone on, and I am happy that we have a president who, even in the light of significant economic improvement, he himself does not even exaggerate it. He does not tout it. He just lays down the facts, and some of us will comment on them. The people of Ghana will comment on them. At the very least, it is mundane for every government to put in place measures and policies that will benefit the people they lead. And it is in that light that His Excellency the President is delivering on all the promises that he made the people of Ghana. You know that just about few days ago, the president also assented to the 24-hour authority bill. I've read portions of it, and I know that it will be in the interest of the people of Ghana that this program will be rolled out in its full scale. Already there are some state institutions that are running the system, like we promised when we were in opposition, that some state institutions will run. But the whole idea is private sector led. Now we have given legal backing to it. The frameworks have been developed, and the bill will ensure the full operationalization of the policy. And I know that as we speak, there are many companies and businesses. You know, last week the president held a meeting with the private sector. I was there in Kempinski, and they were happy to have a situation where within 1 year all these gains have been made, and they are happy to roll on to the 24-hour economy system. There are many people who have criticized that in 1 year we have not been able to do it. President Mahama is not an ad hoc president. He believes in systems and strategies. Now the bill has been passed. The authority will see to the operationalization of the policy. I know some seed fund has been allocated to it. I believe that the monies will be given to them to roll these businesses and private sector onto the program, and many Ghanaians will benefit from it. During that program, I heard a lot of proposals that were being made by the authority, and I think they are extremely brilliant. Many people will benefit from it. I have heard that they are looking at a situation where the Bank of Ghana intends to even list some banks on the Ghana Stock Exchange, so that these banks will get patient capital to give to these factories, because these manufacturing companies actually need patient capital. And the Bank of Ghana, in support of that program, is going to list some of these banks, some of our banks, on the stock exchange, so that people can buy stocks and shares. People who are patient, they want, I mean, they are patient with interest and what have you. They will have enough time to allow these monies to work for them, so that the program can be rolled out. So I am committed. I'm happy about the improvements so far, and I believe that going forward, the people of Ghana will reap significant benefit from it the way and manner we expect to get it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for laying that foundation for the discussion for today. Now, on the matter of cocoa, of course, I'll come to Adam Sabo shortly, because there were two players on the floor of Parliament yesterday, the MPP, NDC, and then I'll come to the very interested spectators, that's the UP Plus and of course Doc. I will share, this is from Reuters, because the MPs were holding cocoa pots in their hand yesterday. And this Reuters, February 26, Ivory Coast plans to bring forward the start of its cocoa mid-crop season for the first time ever, allowing the regulator to sharply reduce its set prices paid to farmers in hopes of boosting sales. Two government sources and two regulator sources told Reuters. The measures are intended to help the world's biggest producer address a crisis of excess stock resulting from a slump in global prices. The drop has made Ivorian cocoa too expensive, resulting in unsold bags of cocoa beans piling up both inland and at the country's ports in recent months. Cocoa produced next month will now be classified as mid-crop rather than main crop, and the price farmers are paid will be set at between 800 to 1,000 CFA franc per kilograms, sharply below the main crop price of 2,800 CFA franc. That is the story that Reuters published. Mr. Sabo.
Thank you very much. Good morning to our cherished viewers. And good morning to my brothers here. And then with my brother, the name is escaping. Amin. Yes, Ramadan Mubarak. And the Muslims out there, Ramadan Mubarak. I think this is the first time we are meeting ever since I'm coming on this show, ever since we started the Ramadan listing. Yes, SENA, yesterday, in fact, as Ghanaians, we were expecting a lot from the president, especially based on the promise that he gave Ghanaians, or the messages that he sold, or the programs and policies that he sold to Ghanaians, which actually brought him to power. So we were expecting him to account to us the progress made in these areas. And I think my brother dealt with the issues sector by sector, and then maybe I will just start with some two sectors and I'll come to the whole issues, especially with regards to the, what do you call it, the manifesto that ushered this government into power and what has been done so far. Because that is basically the reason why Ghanaians made him the president. So if you are coming to account to us the state of the nation's destiny, of course, you need to properly account to us. So now let's look at agric. I am so passionate about agric because the part of the country that I come from, almost 80% of our population are engaged in agriculture. And for that matter, as a subject of that area, wherever you find yourself, of course, your mind, and even some we those who stay in Accra here, would largely depend on their success. Because if there is no, what do you call it, a good harvest, it's going to affect we those who stay in the cities here. So it is our interest to always make sure that they get the necessary support and, of course, facilities to be able to work. So it is true that when this government was ushered into power, the world over, the economies have recovered and others are still recovering. And of course, Ghana has not been left out in the recovery. Just like when 2020, when those two crises came there, that is the Russia-Ukraine war and of course the COVID. When we made mention of these things, NDC could not understand and said, why should we be putting all this in on Russia-Ukraine war and then COVID-19? But SENA, not long before when the president was sworn in and he went to United Nations, his first decision, he mentioned that one as factors that actually, affected the economy. And then for that matter, they are doing everything possible to bring the economy back to track. So I think sometimes in our quest to ask for the people's votes, we should as much be bold enough to tell them the truth, so that when the baton is given to us, of course, when we are to account to them, we can comfortably state the facts, because we came with the facts, and for that matter, it will not be difficult for us to deal with the facts. But of course, if we peddle falsehood and come to power, definitely you'll find it difficult to account to the people the true state of the nation's address. Today, as we speak, SENA, if you go to the north, there are a lot of harvest that our brothers and sisters are struggling to sell. And even at a price that they know that they have made losses. Because you agree with me, before the farming season, in fact, prices of farm inputs were still very high. The cedi was still down there, and dollar was up there. And you agree with me, most of our farm inputs are not locally produced, are mostly imported, especially with regards to fertilizer and other things. So they bought all these things at those prices, only to harvest at a time that the cedi has gained some kind of appreciation, and the dollar has also fallen. So definitely, from the word go, they were at loss. They have already lost the lesson. And what I know, as a current president, will have done like Nana Akufo-Addo did to cocoa farmers once some similar thing like that happened, is to have come in. After all, we have a buffer stock where government is supposed to actually, buy farm produce and then store in the event of any, a national calamity or in the event of drought in a particular farming season. That one can come as a cushion to support. And quite apart from it, quite recently, the buffer stock has also been used to feed our students in their various schools and the rest. So the government could have so stepped in to buy these farm produce from these farmers, just to encourage them that so that the next farming season they will go back to the farms. Because from where I sit, my fear is that if these farmers are not able to sell even these, the lower prices that they are offering, if they are not able to sell this farm produce, it will be very difficult for most of them to go back to the farms the next farming season. And even if they do, they will not be able to cultivate at the rate that they did in the last season. So I was of the view that the government will have come to their rescue and then make sure that he buys these things from them. And the highest crops among them are the cereal crops. That is maize.
The grains.
Yes, the grains, exactly. And you also agree with me that a lot of leguminous crops are also doing very well in the north. All these crops are packed up there. So I think it is not it's not too late for the government to still do something, because as I speak, those crops are still up there. And sometimes you see them on TikTok, and these farmers will come, and some of them will identify themselves as ardent members of NDC. They all work for the government to come to power. But today, this is the way the government is paying them back. They have regretted and what have you. I'm pleading with the government. He shouldn't let them regret. They should come to their aid and do something for them. And I believe doing something for them is doing something for all of us, because it will save all of us the situation. So now, quite apart from that, still on agriculture, I think it was part of this government's, what do you call it, manifesto, that one given the mandate, he is going to initiate a program that he referred to as Nkukwa Kitinkiti. That will help some households to be able to earn a living, which is not a bad idea at all, if indeed that thing was able to roll out, and then of course properly catered for. But along the line, we started hearing from government officials again that it is not like just actually giving it to households and whatever, but people who are already in the industry are going to be given some sort of support and whatever, so that they can in turn get these people to train them and also win them to start the thing on their own. I think in his State of the Nation's address, I don't know, I was not good in mathematics when I was in school. My mates are aware of that, because I heard him mention 700 what do you call it, was it 700 no, 720. He mentioned 720 what do you call it, poultry or fowls.
Okay, live birds.
Live birds, exactly. If that's the right word. Thank you very much. Live birds. And these 700 were shared among 13,000 people. In mathematics, I don't know. I think the videos are there. And of course, you all have Android. So that 720 birds have been shared among 13,000 people. I'm very poor in mathematics, to be frank with you. Maybe you have to help me out here. I don't know how this can be done. Whether maybe the dress bird that he was referring to, or live birds. Maybe if it is dress bird, maybe some had thighs, some had neck, some had head and the legs. Then maybe that one we can get the mathematics accurate. But if it is live birds, I don't know how that can be done, or that can be possible. But on a more serious note, on the Nkukwa Kitinkiti, SENA, as we speak, I don't know. In fact, recent times, I live both in the north and here. I'm yet to come across any family or any household who are the beneficiaries of this. I remember, yes, last year it was launched somewhere in Kumasi. And then we were told even at the launch, some few beneficiaries were given theirs. But up to date, as we speak, not a single person that I know, or I don't know, some of us here, maybe if you know of anybody like that, that has benefited from this Nkukwa Kitinkiti. So I had wanted the president to actually stay on this, to explain to us why up to this time we are not seeing these things, and I mean in the system, and the way forward, what they are also putting in place to make it work. SENA, from Agric, I think I'll leave it here like that and then move to employment. As we speak, we still have a lot of nurses who are still staying at home. In fact, badges, not even just, about 4 or 5 badges who are still at home, not being employed. And we still have a lot of them also who have been employed and given clearance, and yet they've not received even their first salaries. And they've worked for months and what have you. The same applies to teachers. For teachers, when it comes to those ones, sometimes I get it a bit personal because I'm also a teacher. And I've also gone through those systems. Although fortunately for some of us, the year we complete, in fact, when we're in school, our time, before you write your last paper, you already know where you are posted to. Your posting will come to the school. You already know that when I'm leaving campus, next time I'm reporting to this particular place. And I think this government promised Ghanaians that automatic posting, he will bring it back when voted into power. It is over a year now. Those who have completed under him are still sitting at home. And even teachers who were employed and given clearance before he even came in have still not been paid. I still there. I think some time ago there when the was it the minister? No, I think that was the Minister for Health. Yeah. That they met at House Park. But many teachers, I think, yes. By the way, teachers who also came on demonstration that they've not been paid. I
recall the health sector, not
teachers too. I remember teachers also came, and if you understand, I always believe like maybe you cross check and then tell me. Teachers have also been on the street that they've not been paid their arrears, but I think that one it will be within his regime. I think 7 months arrears or so have not been paid as we speak, and I want to remind this government that he shouldn't do what he did somewhere in 2013 or so. That time I was still in the classroom teaching. I remember there were, even including myself, my money is still with the state. And as a Muslim, I believe that on the day of judgment, I'll still get that money because I worked for it. I will not push for it here on this earth as a Muslim. If you got the records are there, you can give it to me. But if you refuse to give it to me on the day of judgment, I'll take my money from the distance. That there were so many arrears, those who were on promotions and the rest, and even newly trained teachers and what have you. This man came with a particular program or whatever that they are going to give only 3 months. And even whether the arrears were for 2 years, 5 years, whatever, 3 months, and that ended the whole thing. As we speak up to date. Please, I am pleading. That one, maybe others might have forgiven, and the rest. And as we speak, some have even died and what have you. This particular one, please, we are pleading. The system is not easy at all. He should do his best and make sure that he pays the teachers their full arrears. In fact, some of them are saying 7 months and others, they should pay their full arrears for them. And then, of course, there are some other teachers. In fact, when you go to the rural areas, you will respect teachers. Sometimes the teacher will be living in the district capital, but where he teaches is like somewhere from here to Kuntunsi or sometimes, yes. So he always trek to and fro from his place of abode to his school and what have you. And you can imagine the person is already coming, maybe from a poor home. Already there's no support back home. And he's even the one that they are looking up to now that he has been employed. And he has come 7 months, no salary. And he's trekking from the district capital to wherever he's teaching. So you can imagine the kind of debt that will have piled on himself if indeed he wants to continue to teach and what have you. And there are many teachers who have also come. Many videos are in circulation. There are some places that primary school, only about 3 or 4 teachers are there. Spaces, it's not like, there are a lot of spaces in many schools across the length and breadth of this country. That you go to a whole school, the same class 4 teacher is the headmistress or the headmaster, the same person is class 1 teacher, the same person is class 2 teacher. Tell me, how can this person divide himself or herself to be able to teach efficiently and effectively to make teaching and learning actually take place in the classroom situation? And besides that, upon all these things, the salaries are not coming. So I think this is a national issue. This has nothing to do with politics. But all of us sitting here, at least if we are no longer in the classroom, but our children or cousins or sisters are still in the classroom. And whatever prevails there will affect us one way or the other. So I'm pleading with the president to also do something about it. And then SENA, Ora, in fact, like I told you, I didn't actually get the opportunity to listen, but in your preliminary listen, you said he touched on Ora and what have you. But I don't know. Because we were told some billions of Ghanaian cedis will be recovered from Ora. So far, the reports that have come, what are that? They received about 2,000 plus report complaints and what have you. And some of the things they themselves have investigated. If I'm not mistaken, I stand to be corrected. Whether on record there is any Attorney General who have had press conferences in his first year more than this particular Attorney General. In fact, it was always like you wake up to a press conference. You wake up to a press conference. And it was a bit alarming. Because indeed, as a Ghanaian, if indeed those monies that he was mentioning, some individuals actually embezzled those money, I think, yes, it calls for a national wake-up call for all of us to make sure that the money returns to the states. Some were unlawfully detained based on these rumors and what have you. I think about 3 of the cases are in court as we speak. The National Service one, but yes, I think that one is in court. Edubuahin issue is in court, it's still in court, and then one particular one like that.
And the buffer stock.
Buffer stock is also SkyTrade, excellent. SkyTrade also in court. I hope you are getting me. So I was of the view that all these press conferences were not that necessary because you are still at the, as we speak, even in court, right, you are still investigating the issue. Because the lawyers involved will still be making their research and investigation to come up with the facts and what have you. And we come and then organize press conferences and then make Ghanaians feel, because this one, it was like inciting the public against those individuals. So if in the long run they come out of court and they are clean, what kind of damage have you caused to them and their families, especially their children? So I believe as a state, sometime at a point in time, we should move away from the politics of it and face the realities. So we are still looking up to the president to retrieve and recover all the monies that he promised us that people have stolen and the rest. We are still waiting for them because now they've stopped jumping or scaling over walls into people's homes and the rest. And they've stopped peeping at people when they are in their rooms and what have you, because they still can't find anything when they started those things. You see. And then, in fact, it escaped me when I was even doing that. The cocoa farmers, I think they were promised some boreholes on their farms. So that even when there's drought or when we're in the dry season, they can still water their cocoas to grow them very well. Only for them to have a kind of a haircut that they didn't ask for. Because as we speak, I remember around President Nana Akufo-Addo's time, cocoa prices dropped even from $1,000 up to around $800 or $700. But Nana Akufo-Addo still paid the existing prices for cocoa farmers. Borrowed money from Bank of Ghana and paid cocoa farmers and held them until the market started improving. Of course, market after prices, they fluctuate. They go up and down depending on the season and then, of course, the forces that are within it. So as a government, you should have this kind of, eye to anticipate into the future. And then be able to say that, of course, if we take this risks, around this time we can be able to recoup or recover from whatever shock that we might have gotten from the decision that we might have taken or made. But to just push everything onto the farmer, I don't think that is fair. Because these farmers, as we see them, in fact, most of them are the Obusuapanyin of the various families and the rest. Most of the family members depend on them. They have a lot of things that they do. And because it is it's a fixed price, like even before the person harvests, he knows how much he's going to earn. So you can see the shock. It is not like maize, we go to the farm and then the market determines the price. Cocoa has a fixed price in the past, all this while. And I'm told, in fact, I don't know, because independence of this country is older than me. So I'm told that cocoa price has never been reduced by any government since independence. It is this government who has set that record. and it is going into our history books, and I don't think it is good for any government for this kind of things to happen. So then we were also told some job be that one to mathematics. Anything about mathematics, I fear it a bit because I'm not good at it. That 133, one job, 3 employee, 3 shifts, and I believe I've gotten it right this time around. I don't know, SENA, whether you know of a particular institution that has started running this. That you go there, the same job, cameraman job, this morning, this person is the one mining it. Up to 12, this person comes to mine it. Up to 6, another person comes to mine it, and what have you. Because the last time somebody wanted to explain to me that Tema Harbor. And again, I was born in Nkrumah, so I was born in Harbor City.
Okay.
And I've known Harbor to always work around the clock.
Yes.
Anytime you go to Harbor, you see people moving around working. Anytime you go to Harbor, you see people working and moving around and the rest. Airport has been like that. Even today as we speak, our VIP bus terminal is like that. Anytime, especially if you are traveling to Kumasi or Takoradi, you can just take your bag anytime if you wake up now and start walking towards the station. You get a car to board and then go. We were made to believe that there are especially artisans that if they decide to work at night, they will get some kind of subsidies on their electricity bill, or the kind of meter that will be given to them will be different, will be calibrated in such a way that it will not read as the normal one and what have you. In fact, this was said by the national chairman in his quest to explain, because this particular thing gave them a lot of problems. All of them had different versions of their explanations to this. As we speak today, SENA, I still want to believe that maybe they are still at the drawing table trying to come out with this particular, 24-hour economy that they are talking about. Unless, of course, like I said, I stand to be corrected if there are some institutions that this government has, because they made Ghanaians believe that it is something novel that they are bringing. And then it is something that is unusual on the Ghanaian market. And it is something that when they bring it, all of us, because of course, I'm jobless as I sit right now. But I believe if something like that had come, I would have gotten somewhere to also fix myself. Maybe some part-time teacher bikura, then I also get my something small and be doing. But only God knows. And then SENA again, what do you call it? Automatic posting. Automatic posting was also promised. In fact, these are their own what do you call it? Manifesto promises that I'm actually bringing out. It would have been very good because I enjoy that one. Because I can imagine at those days, if I were also to sit in the house for some time before I don't know what would have happened. Because there was nothing that I could have relied on. I didn't have anything. In fact, even in school, some of us even went to training because of the alawa. So that you can survive on the alawa whilst we are still learning and what have you. And then you've completed again to nothing. You come and sit home, and the same old lady, you are still worrying her, or the same old man, you are still worrying him for chop money and what have you. You came and then you injected hope into the youth that no worries. This time round, when I come, you'll be automatically posted. Today, as we speak, I was speaking to one particular, trainers who is also at home, that they informed them about 2 days ago or something, that they should go to the individual health facilities, they themselves to apply, so that those facilities will rather take stock of those that they want to employ. Mm-hmm. And I find it, in fact, I find it very difficult to understand, because if I am going to Tamil Teaching Hospital to apply as a nurse, so now you can imagine, excuse me, even with the men, because sometimes it's better. You can imagine what will happen to our girls. Even when it is the central government who is even doing the recruitment, some people say find ways and means to disturb these girls. How much more now they are going to individual facilities to apply? So it is something, in fact, of course, it's an information that person has given me. It is not something that I have gotten it from any platform yet. Okay. But if indeed this is true, then what has happened to the promise? That one voted into power, he will resolve all this backlog of nurses and teachers sitting at home. And even he will automate their posting. So that going forward, it will no longer be like you complete and come and wait. Immediately you finish. And I believe strongly after the health sector, it is possible that it can easily be done. Because with this agenda 1111 and the rest, if this government should actually focus on it and complete the other ones, all these things are going to be manned by health, personnel. Okay. And these nurses can find spaces in all these things. So we are pleading with him. Our cousins, nephews and nieces are back home and they are still worrying us because we still feed them, clothe them and what have you. And yet they are ready to work. They are qualified to work and what have you. But the government is still holding them back home. It was a promise. That is why I am putting it at. He told them that when they vote him to power, when he comes, all these things will go. And then one doc was speaking. He made mention of inflation. They came to meet inflation around 23%, and now inflation is around 3-point-something%. That is true. And but I wanted him to also make it clear that inflation was not upwards when they came. When we were handing over to them, inflation was downwards. It wasn't upwards. It wasn't rising. It was actually calm. It was deflating, actually, because somewhere 2022, it went up to 54%. Is that not it? And we started bringing it down. And who understands economics very well will tell you that indeed it was under control because it was actually being brought down. Inflation cannot just drop like a mango fruit. It's a process that is involved. And it was coming. It was coming. Is that not it? So definitely, even if the previous government had remained in power, I think the outlook today as we speak will even be far better than what we are seeing. However, let me accept that indeed inflation is around 3%. And what is cost of living as we speak? Is there any ease in the cost of living vis-a-vis 2024? Cost of living is even worsened because people who used to buy electricity, they say about 100 cedis or 50 cedis for a whole month or a whole week. Now I'm saying that even 100 cedis within 2 days, 3 days, it's gone. I'm using electricity as just an example. So many other things that we use in our homes or in our everyday life have rather gone up. But ideally, the correlation between inflation and cost of living, they are all decent. They are all, how do I even say? Yes, they are not inverse. They are all the same. When if it's going up, all of them will go up. If it's going down, they'll all come down. But inflation is down, cost of living is rather going up. Of course, if this phone was sold around 5,000, and then the indication is that within the next 3 months, it can be sold around 5,100. But it still remains at 5,000 the next 3 months. All things being equal, things that I do might have rather gone up a bit. So it becomes cheaper, although it is still at the same price because inflation is stable. Yeah. Exactly. But that is not what is actually happening. Macaulay women went on demonstration just about 2 days or 3 days ago because their rent has been quadrupled. It's a Macaulay women. Those who are renting the SNIT buildings and whatever. So an indication that of course cost of living and it's not favorable, although inflation looks good. So Ghanaians are saying that, and I think the same thing they were telling us. It is not what we are saying, what we feel in our pocket. That's the reality. So today as we speak, it is about what is in the pocket of the Ghanaian and not what he's telling us. Okay. And then SENA, I can see that you want me to what do you call it, wind up. Okay. So the last thing I will say is that the president, anytime he comes to give us the state of the nation's address, he should know that at least there are people like Doc himself in his field. There are people like Lawyer Appiah in his field. Prof is there. There are professionals, apart from we the politicians. There are people who are well versed in their areas. So at least tell the people the reality. Because as we speak, those who are professionals in those areas, they know what the reality is. And if those people also start to organize lectures to tell their side of the story, then the whole thing is politicized. And it makes the country, as to say, sometimes look like we are divided on politics. Being you, Mr. A or Mr. B, based on what you say, you identify as this. Or based on what you do, you identify as that. I strongly believe that he's the president as we speak today. And it is like, in his first year, of course, like every other president, majority of the people are still on his side. So he should take that advantage to bite the bullet, to tell the people the real situation of the economy, the real true state of the country. Today, as we speak, security issues all over. In fact, just about 4 days ago, I don't know whether SENA you've come across that video. In Tamale, these people selling tramor and what have you. One guy went there to buy tramor, and I'm told this time around because of there's an IGP operation team in Tamale currently, and they are doing very well. For that one, I must comment. Very, 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 very well. And they call them something Maria. And that because of their operations. This time, when you come to buy the drug, they will not allow you to take the drug because they don't know who you are. So they force you to take it in front of them. They will give you water and everything, and you swallow the drug. So after having given the gentleman to swallow, and I'm told one is 25 Ghana cedis. And he swallowed, I think, 50 Ghana cedis or so, and he was able to pay for only one. And he said the other one he will pay later. And that causes death. The guy died, he used something to hit the occiput. And he fell. And he was taken into hospital. The same person who hit him was taken to hospital. When he reached the hospital, he was pronounced dead and he was brought back again. Okay. I am bringing this in because in Tamale, thank God that the IGP has commissioned a team who are going around, and we've been seeing it on our videos and the rest. Even these days, funerals, the way these boys behave and other things. I strongly believe that if such things can be replicated in all other cities, I think it will go a long way to protect and also preserve the good name that the country has enjoyed over the years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you just join us, this is the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji&Alhaji. We're discussing the State of the Nation's address. There's one point, because a lot of people are talking about it, the Nkrumah Nkitikiti program. This is the text that the president read. It says the Nkrumah Nkitikiti program is underway. The target is to reach 60,000 households. Even before the launch, 720,000 beds. 720,000 beds were distributed during the pilot phase to 13,000 farmers in 12 districts. Yes.
But watch the video. Even if it's not right, watch the video.
Okay.
And listen to the president.
Unfortunately, I'm not in the position to do that. But when the president reads the State of the Nation's address, he submits the written text, the written speech to Parliament.
I'm not disputing all that you are saying. That it could be true that maybe that is what was written there. But what he voiced out, was 720 beds.
And I'm saying that this is the record before Parliament.
I'm saying what I heard.
So it's just possible. No, when you're reading a speech, sometimes you can. No. But I haven't. No, I'm saying that I didn't pay enough attention to be able to confirm
right now, those who are watching us, they will only take what I've said.
No, you're not reading a speech. You're not reading a speech.
Something. I refer to my note here whilst I'm speaking.
No, but you're not reading a speech. The State of the Nation's address. Yes. You are
not the spokesperson of the president.
No, I'm not saying I'm the spokesperson for the president. I'm saying that there's a test before Parliament. That's in the records of Parliament. So yes.
But I so hold.
Well,
it's online.
Well, if you just a couple of comments you're sharing with us. This is Hardy in Pig Farm, who says the price of cocoa has reduced drastically in the world market, so the government should top up for the cocoa farmers, according to Sabo. And he says nagging people's party, aka the M people. I feel sad when I hear young men in the M people who don't have a Mother Ghana at heart, but only their political party making baseless submissions just to please their political party? How can the government buy cocoa at a high price and sell it at a low price? How? His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama is very much on course and focused on executing the reset agenda and is paying no attention to the ugly noise that is being made by Sabo and his MPP. That's Hadi Pigfam who sent that. This one is from Senya Breko Kobi, who says, please, so with all this that happened in the country, we are not ashamed. We still have the guts to talk as if we better concentrate in building our party. Okay, he sent that. Thank you very much. Just as difficult to read. This one says, please, the Nkrumah Kiti program is a process which is ongoing. I consider the rollout is slow, but some districts, Ejiso and Joabing in Ashanti, have theirs as far back as 22nd of January 2026, and I am a beneficiary. 50 live births of 9 weeks old. My brother Sabo should take a chill pill and it will get to all corners of the country. Salif Useidu sent that from Ejiso in the Shanti region. There's Vincent who is watching us, Wilson watching us from Dansuma. So these MP people are not ashamed, but still have the ability to be mentioning and comparing Akufo-Addo and his useless, reckless handling of this country's affairs. They should, they should give us some breathing space. Okay. There's also Hamza, who is also joining us. Says President Mahama yesterday demonstrated to show the whole nation that he's on top of issues. Every sector of the economy was touched in his delivery. And I'm particularly happy to see that the president took it upon himself to explain issues to our cocoa farmers. It is important we state the facts as they are. The MPP took over when power when our debt was 122 billion Ghana cedis. And as at the time they were leaving power, the debt they left behind was 726 billion Ghana cedis. Did we go or did we come? It is also on record that the economy of Ghana was rated as junk economy under the MPP. And today as we speak, the economy has been rated as B-. This is the difference between the NDC and the MPP. That's Hamza who sent that. There's also Emmanuel from Dabala who says, SENA, do you think we'll take those KG people's parading as MPP serious and go and drench or burn our precious in the rain or sunshine to vote for them again? Most of them are one-term MPs. That's Emmanuel from Dabala who sent that. Sami, okay. Thank you very much for the comments you're sharing with us on the discussion we are having. I'll come to Doc on my left before I go to lawyer. Doc has seen many countries in ruins. In fact, that is a job he used to do. Doc.
Good morning, and good morning to your cherished viewers. Thank you very much for having me. Of course, this is the first time live on Alhaji&Alhaji. Even though I'm not actually a stranger to Alhaji&Alhaji, even staying outside the country, I do my best with the help of technology to be part of the program, at least a virtual, viewer. So somehow I'm not, strange to this program. But thank you for having me. State of the nation. Well, so much has been said earlier, and I believe that we still have quite a couple of things to say from our side as well. I think what is critical is the fact that this was a constitutional, obligation, and it has been fulfilled. So we take it from there. And I think it is important that we establish the need for us, to soldier on with our democracy, so that where there are legal provisions for us to meet, we do as well to meet them. Of course, we will not leave out the usual wranglings of political entities. It's part of the democracy, so we take it in good faith. But what is important for my side is that I believe that the president spoke a lot. He spoke virtually touching on all angles and dimensions that affects us as a country. And to that extent, we need to commend him. And from my observation, I really want to, well, he's an orator, so you can't take that away from him. So in terms of the beauty of the presentation, there's nothing you can take away from him. So I think it was an excellent delivery, and I quite agree with him when he says that, well, some credibility to the country has been restored. There's no doubt about that. It can only come from those of us who suffer haircuts. Right? Yes. Because in our preparation to come home, Some of us knew the kind of investments we did and what we went through. So if the government, if the president says that the credibility of the nation has been restored, I have no point disagreeing with him, and that is actually the case. And I recollect he said that Ghana is taxing at the moment, so we should all fasten our belts. Again, I want to agree with him and saying that yes, because seriously speaking, if we are to take account of where we are coming from and where we are, no matter how you look at it, something is changing, something is improving. Yes, we haven't reached where we want to be, but at least there is some signals that there are better things ahead. And I want to believe that, or even urge our political actors, let's wear the spectacles that appreciates good signs of things, and we can still ask for more. After all, there is no perfect human institution or human environment in the world. So to the extent possible, there's always room for improvement. So that is my preliminary comment, particularly because of the kind of angles and twistings that we've had in parliament by parliamentarians and so on and so forth. So to the extent that the physicals are good as of now, I think that is something that we must first admit. That yes, in the past we had difficulties, we had run into the ditch, we had reached a stage that we can even no longer service our debt obligations. We had reached a stage that even we were giving haircuts to funds belonging to pensioners and so on and so forth. We were spending excessively to the extent that there was no control, so much so that we could even throw about $100 million in the cathedral. We can have SkyTrain that has not come into fruition, and yet money has been paid. I'm from Bolga. I hear of Palugu Dam, some 11.9 million spent, nothing is on the ground, and so on and so forth. And I know the dangers that Bagri dams over there, and so on and so forth. So when we have the dynamics changing now, it is only fair that we admit that things are getting better. However, we want more. So to the extent possible, as far as my own stake is concerned, I see the president expressing some demonstration of leadership in the change in the direction that we have in now. That you realize that if you listen to the beginning of the speech, it was one of stating the fact that somehow his government has demonstrated some discipline and some level of leadership to change the course of the country, right? As a result, Ghana's integrity has been restored. Ghana is open to business, and so on and so forth. And as has been said earlier on, the macro economic figures are quite clear. Inflation is virtually under control, and businesses need this in order to be able to plan. Interest rates are on the decline. Businesses need this to be able to have access to loanable funds, expand their businesses, and we know we have been complaining of job. We know the youth bulge is a threat to Africa as a whole. So to the extent that we having stable business environment, that will give businesses opportunity to borrow loanable funds, invest in businesses and expand, it will be a welcome idea. But we know that in developed countries, people are borrowing at the rate of 2%, 3%, etc. We are still on the high, even though we know it's on the decline. But we still need more, so that will give access to businesses to be able to borrow. And so, yeah, we need to solve the issue of unemployment. I mean, you talk of exchange rate. To the extent that we are so much import dependent, we know that importation still plays a very big role in our economy. Currently, somehow, the dollar or exchange rate is also under control. As the president himself said, that they did not lock up the dollar, arrest and lock up the dollar, but they rather enhance the capacity of the dollar to be able to fight other currency. So again, that is also a good sign. And of course, we have seen signs of the market responding, even though it's not as perfect as we would wish. For example, not too long ago, we had the Car Importers Association in a press release that because of the stability of the dollar or the foreign exchange, somehow they have reduced the cost of motor vehicles by 50%. That's a good sign. But we don't have a perfect system. And that is why if you still go to our market today, even despite certain actions taken by government to stabilize the city, to take out certain taxes in terms of VAT calculation has been rationalized, and so on and so on, and other things. If you go to the port, some taxes have also been taken out, COVID levy tax, and so on and so forth. We still don't have the market responding perfectly. Just yesterday in my area, we were buying cement in a distance of just about 150 meters. Okay, one dealer was selling the 32.5 for 90 cedis. Okay. Another was selling for 95 in the same Tebibiano, Otish, right? And for the 42.5, one was selling for 110 cedis, and the other was selling for 105. So you ask yourself, what kind of system are we running? If you go to the Francophone countries, you don't find this. I can bet you if you are buying this item, maybe in the city, walk out of town, you get it the same price. So just look at a bag of cement, most likely from the same source, in the same area. I'm telling you, just about 100 meters this way. This was just an experience yesterday. Right? The same bag of cement, one location is 105 cedis for the 42.5, and at another location, just about 100 meters away, it is 110. So that is where I would think that we need to find ways that our system can correct some of these things. So today, we're talking about stability of the currency, taxes being removed. Fine, that's also improving. Our debt levels, debt to GDP. Again, that is also handy now, or it has improved. The government inherited about 60 point something, or 65%. Currently, it's about 45, I believe. It has also come down. Again, that creates this fiscal space. So all said and done, the macroeconomic indicators are looking good. As a result, what was the assessment of the rating agencies until now? It was something else. Currently, we are told we are B- with a positive outlook. So I want our political actors, for example, or in particular rather, should actually admit some of these gains. But to the extent that we still have challenges, let's discuss those challenges. And some of them, I believe, are systemic. And that is where we need to advocate for rules of engagement that will improve the system. That's how do we have a market situation whereby market women will go to the same source, buy the same tomato or buy the same onion, and yet the prices vary. And for example, I keep questioning myself. When you go to Francophone countries, if you buy fruits and vegetables, they weigh them. Okay. Yeah, in kilos. No matter the level. So you go to a store, you want to buy tomato, they put it on a weighing scale. So it is the weight that determines the price. Okay. But in our case, somebody will look at your dressing and then give you the price. So these are the things that I believe we need to correct. There are actually challenges. So whilst the macroeconomic environment is looking good, we will still ask for more. Like I said, in some countries, they do borrowing at 2-3%. We are still far higher than that, even though we know, the borrowing rate is coming down. So we need more. So, like I said, yes, the president spoke on so many areas, and I'm not sure we can even exhaust this in this setting. But one will just take the areas of interest. So for me, okay, education, right? Somehow I heard part of it saying that they were going to continue and strengthen the SHS system, which we know until now we're being told that once John Mama's offices, SHS was going to be a bye-bye. That has not happened. Okay. So it is being enhanced, and I believe that the challenges we used to have in the past, somehow in terms of feeding, is improved. But then that does not mean that there are no challenges. We still have educational institutions at the SSH level without basic furniture. My Navongo Secondary School, as I talk, I know we are crying about furniture. Okay. I was in Navongo Secondary School for 7 years, and I went there back to teach before I came to commission. Then, that's the rest is part of history. But then, so all I'm saying is that yes, SHS good policy. It has not been cancelled. It has been reviewed, and yet is being, to the extent that we have government uncapping the education fund, we believe that some funds allocation has been, done. And I also heard the issue of some 200 schools being built at the basic level. I think that's also a good indication, because if you look at the education experts, most of the analysts keep saying that funding at the lower level has been minimal over the years. And since that is the foundation of education, whatever is necessary to actually build a solid foundation before we even go to SHS level and then to federal levels is actually critical. And I believe I heard some engagements going on to review the curriculum in order to introduce AI and other, I think these are innovative interventions that we would wish for. All we can ask for, the government should walk the talk. The necessary funding, whatever is needed, the expertise should be accessed and made available, and then so that we can have better education. In terms of health, again, well, since I'm coming from Teshi area, I was glad to hear that La General Hospital would be, because I know the pressure we have at Nkrumah Hospital, right? Because since La was demolished for renovation and was not successful, we know the pressure that has brought to us in Teshi, Nkrumah. So it's refreshing to hear that the government is looking at providing funds in order to, finish that hospital. Of course, and there were other issues that he talked about in the health sector. Again, like other sectors, the health area also has its own problems. I know you had to put down this issue of some review about, so maybe when we'll get there, we'll talk about it. But it is refreshing that the government also mentioned things about, he mentioned something about the Agenda 111, the prospects of continuing some of them in order to, in any case, we had said time and again that the business or this issue of constructing 111 hospitals at a go was a little over ambitious. Probably if we had taken the resources and done it in phases, that would have been better off. I believe the monies that has been spent by now, maybe we could have even finished 20 or 25, and we have been better off using these ones than to have well over 100 not in use. So again, that is where I think we need to improve our systems to ensure that even when policies are rolled out, there should be a way we should check some of these things. Because I'm not sure that even the US or any of these Western economies can put on table 101 hospital facilities at a go in 18 months. Certainly it will be difficult. I'm not too sure where the resources will come for that kind of. But if we had some policy directions that will ensure that, look, this thing you are putting on the table, it looks too ambitious. What are the sources of funding? Okay, so based on whatever assessment that we do on the funds available to us, then the policy should be, look, we cannot build 111 at a go. We can build 5. Let's go with the 5. We can build 10. Let's go with the 10. Rather than to have all these white elephants, dotted all over the country. So again, it was refreshing to hear that some amount of resources will be made available for the continuation of some of the Agenda 111 and so on and so forth. Again, we can't talk of all. Agric. Yes, it's another important area that we need to look at. Indeed, in the classroom, I've always told students that I still don't understand why Africa cannot feed itself. We have about 40% of the arable land, in the world. We have all that it takes to be able to feed ourselves. So how come that as Africans, we cannot? It's a big problem. And I think that we need to review. Sometimes it's not even, it's a question of implementation. Because in terms of the theories and all the designs to actually do some of this, it's on paper. But it's just the implementation. So there can be no reason why we should not improve our agriculture and to be self-sufficient. However, what is the current situation we find ourselves as far as Ghana is concerned? Yeah, somehow, like my brother said earlier on, sometimes I used to hear Zato complain about maize farmers, and we seem to have a glut in the system now, and somehow farmers are complaining, and that if they don't get the commensurate returns, the prospects of they investing in farming next year might be in. We understand at the same time Government has given some money to buffer stock. I don't know how much now. Initially it was some 200. It wasn't sufficient. Apparently they said in there about some 1.2 billion, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Some huge
300 million.
Yeah, so the money is insufficient. Again, I think I see this as more of a systemic problem. What system do we have in place to actually forecast, to be able to know the kind of harvest we are expecting and how we can address the glut? Because we should not allow our farmers to suffer. If they do, we're certainly going to run into problems. And we can only hope that the current situation will be addressed in the shortest possible time. Much has been said in that area, and we don't need to. But I think we also have to commend government for whatever they are doing in terms of providing agricultural services. I heard some 540 motorbikes were mentioned, that these are going to help provide services to farmers. Then the issue of district farm centers, district farmer service centers, I think that is also something in the pipeline. I believe that if that is done, the cost of production to the average farmer would come down. But maybe the biggest elephant in the room, the issue of cocoa. So I disagree with you when you say that government should find a way to bail out cocoa farmers. Maybe the question I'll ask you, how many farmers do we have in Ghana? Okay, firstly, how many cocoa farmers do we have in Ghana? I think between 600 and 800,000. How many farmers do we have in Ghana? So if you said earlier on that maize farmers are crying, rice farmers are crying, which other farmers? Okay, farmers in general are crying because of glut, low prices. Now we also know that the determination of cocoa price has something to do with international market. It's way beyond our boundaries. So if we have all these farmers in the country, or we have other farmers in the country who are also suffering because of other challenges, why should it be only the cocoa farmer who should be subsidized or who should be bailed out? So let me finish. So remember, and your argument is that government should go and borrow in order to bail them out. The borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing Ken Ofori-Atta did and threw us into the ditch. You're asking that we should go the same line, we should go or take the same path. I think that I disagree. One, because we have other farmers in the country who are equally suffering. If there is the means to bail out everybody, so be it. But we know that we just coming out of financial crisis. We should be careful not to break, or to distort and disturb whatever achievement we've made so far. If we do, I don't have the numbers in terms of calculation, how much will be needed to bail out the farmers you are talking about. But I think that if we have other farmers who are equally suffering, cocoa farmers, we are sorry they are suffering, but we know that it is something beyond the means, of the government. Since our finances are taking shape, I think that it is too early to call for a bailout in a manner that will require government to go and borrow. If we did that, the likelihood is that we go back to square one. So yes, it's a bitter pill for the farmers to take, but not only cocoa farmers, other farmers as well. However, we can only wish that government should be considering in instances or situations where prices will shoot up, and then whatever windfall that will come out of that, they should reward them at a later date. But for now, the issue of going to borrow, please, let's leave it somewhere. So that let's solidify our finances. Let the macro look better than what we have now. Then when we have better reserves sitting at the central bank, and then we can sacrifice a bit, yes, the farmers deserve more than what they are getting now. But for now, let's not go that that line. Maybe the other area roads. So much has been said. Again, I appreciate government's intervention, and basically there's major road intervention almost across all the 16 regions, and I think that is important. I can only hope that there is enough funding for them. We understand earlier on the finance minister has ring-fenced some funding, such that contractors who would do their work in a matter of 30 days they'll be paid. I hope that it is realistic, it is implementable, and so on and so forth. So all said and done, I think the president has said so much. We cannot exhaust everything at this one sitting. But for me, one last thing I would want to say is, what efforts and interventions are we making for systemic improvements? Today, there's hue and cry about oral. People should not forget that we are not in a military regime where you just pick somebody on the streets and exact instant justice. Whatever system we have today, whatever challenges we have with oral, the oral must respect the system. Whatever court processes we have, whatever investigation processes we have, we must respect them. We cannot say we are practicing a democracy and yet we want to impose on ourselves a kangaroo system. That we arrest people or just mere, what do you call it, media allegations, straightforward, we catch the people, we go and throw them in and so on. No, it can't happen that way. To the extent that we are practicing a democracy, I want to believe that there's a need for us to put in systems that are robust, that are dependable, that are workable, implementable, and achievable. If we do that, that is better. Yes, if the systems are not working now to our satisfaction, what do we do to make it work, to make them work better? And that is the angle we want to appeal and advocate for governments to do more. In all these things that we're talking about, earlier we were talking about prices. How come that within the same area, prices, we have price differentials? Okay, and so on and so forth. So if oral is suffering for some, hiccups today, I believe that it is also part of the system. And Sabu, I'm not sure, they said the oral was an investigative piece, such that they have done all the investigation and all the 2,000 cases are ready for the court. I don't think so. It was just a raw data that was given, and we were told that it was now going to be investigated, it will be sieved, before it is sent to court. If we don't follow this procedure, the same people will cry that, oh, they are harassing us, they are persecuting us. So, to all of us, we are in a democracy. Let's respect rule of law. Let rules work based on what we have in the Constitution. Beyond that, we should not advocate for any rush in order to abuse people's civil liberties and human rights, etc. I think I'll end here. Time is gone. Thank you
very much. And I agree with one thing. As for the borrowing, if they had gone there, they would have been in serious trouble, because they can't borrow just on the whims of it. And nobody has. And so far, to be very frank, I've listened to the debate the MPP have been making. They haven't shown that even at the current price that's been offered by the cocoa board, the farmer is suffering a loss. We're just saying that what they were initially promised, cocoa board is not in the position to pay. But you haven't said that the cocoa farmer produces at 100 Ghana and we are paying them 80 Ghana. You haven't proven that. Nothing has been proven to show that the cocoa farmer is suffering a loss. And so it's interesting when the debate happens and we are not actually suffering. How? Explain. Just that a promise was made, and because of circumstances, that promise cannot be kept. So it's confusing anyway. Interesting.
So good morning, SENA. Let me wish your lovely viewers a good morning. I'm always very glad when I meet my brother, Dr. Aye here. We met some time ago on set, and I've really respected his politics, and I always consider it a privilege to share a platform with him. My brother Zabu, they understand him, you see, I see that he's made you so agitated that for the first time, I see SENA wants to leave his seat and wait until the debate.
No, not that. But see, yes, I'm tired of the cocoa matter. To be very frank,
but I don't blame Zabu. Zabu is coming from a certain culture. He's coming from a culture that sees politics as very Machiavellian. And then in that culture, their only focus is how do we win power and how do we sustain ourselves in power. And so what he's saying is what they are all saying, pure crass propaganda. You understand? And I'm continuing to pray for them, that the Holy Spirit himself touches them, wins them off that spirit of parochialness, that familiar spirit, so and then fills them with the spirit of patriotism. And all in everything they do, even in opposition, they put the interest of Ghana first. That's what I'll say about that. And Prof, a pleasure sharing the platform once again with you. And I must say that your submission was on point. So yesterday, the president discharged a duty that was in line with one of the fundamental spirits, one of the fundamental values of our 1992 Constitution. That's the value of probity and accountability. And so in 1992, when we took our Constitution, we said that every year around this time, the President ought to account for his stewardship, for what he's done so far. And I think yesterday the President did a very good job. But beyond what the President said yesterday, we all stay in Ghana. You understand? We all stay here, and we all have a fair view of the state of the country. Now, see, when we are analyzing how the President has discharged with his duties, I think we'll be making a fundamental mistake if we hold him by the standards of just what he said when he was campaigning. I think the biggest standard that we ought to hold the President against is what the ultimate purpose of politics ought to be. Political power, 1. 2, we ought to hold him by the standards of our Constitution itself. Because in our Constitution, and in Chapter 6, we set an agenda for all governments. That the directive principle of state policy. We set a political agenda. We set an economic agenda. We set a social agenda. We set a cultural agenda. We set an educational agenda. And for me, those two standards, for me, are bigger than his mere campaign promises. They're also important. I'm not saying they are not important, but the bigger standard that we ought to hold the President by are these two agendas. First of all, why do we give people political power in the first place? First. And secondly, what is done, how does it measure to the agenda we've set? And in saying that, we also need to understand the problem that the President was confronted with when we gave him that power. That is a very fair context in which we place the state of the nation. And we want to understand that on 7th January, when the President took office, we had a country that was politically broken. The country had lost all virtue in terms of its politics. Because for 8 years, we had a President who, first of all, broke the trust that ought to exist between the demo. So the demo is the people. It's a democracy. The demo, the people, and government, the people we give powers to. And he broke that trust on so many fronts. On so many fronts. One, when he was, the President has a fundamental duty. And that fundamental duty is seen in the oath he takes. An oath to be faithful to Ghana. And we saw his affirmation of that oath in the first statement he made when he became president. I'm going to protect the public purse. By the time he left office, the public purse had been left ajar. He himself, I don't know whether he was a partaker or not. And that's what we don't understand why our constitution, I don't know why when they were doing the constitutional review, that bit about the 3 years prosecution thing was still kept there. It should be taken out. I don't know why the president himself isn't being investigated and probably being prosecuted. They opened the public purse and we have a hole that apparently cost us $97 million. My brother, he was talking about buffer stock. What happened with buffer stock? We have the CEO of buffer stock, who allegedly, you understand, took more than 15 million USD. We have a situation where national service people are alleged to have taken money that is taller than their heights. Yeah, we have that a situation. You understand? I don't know why executives of Cocoa Board, the previous, are not being investigated. That's why they can have mouth and talk. People procure. So they see it turn Ghana into a procurement economy, a procurement democracy. Because my brother here was talking about Agenda 111, and we all agree that it's senseless. But why would they do that? Because it was an opportunity for them to dip their hands into our funds. So when you do Agenda 111, you're not taking into consideration what was in the interest of the country. It was how can they give cash to party apparatchiks. You understand? We had a situation where even though the previous government had created ESLA to deal with energy sector problems, you saw what they did with it. And in fact, to deceive us, they created the energy sector recovery program, and they did not follow any one of the recommendations there. But they themselves said that if they follow those recommendations by 2023, in energy sector will be a financial viability. Is that the case? We have a situation where the president strangely attacked the institutions that we created to safeguard, to be the vanguard of this democracy, the EC. The EC. We saw the way they took Senator Say off. You understand? Appointed people who were perceived to be members of the MPP onto the EC. We had a president who did not have any qualms to look in the eyes of Ghanaians and tell them that, listen, I reneged on my obligation towards you because you did not vote for my MP. That was the political situation we found ourselves in. We found ourselves in a situation where senior cabinet members did not have any issue attempting to buy the property of Ghana. That was the state we found ourselves in, where suddenly the spirit of meritocracy was broken because their party, the leadership of their party, turned our security agencies into what's called a place where slaughtism was the culture, undermining the ability of Ghana to use its best talents to secure itself. That was the nation they left us. And you see, we must place the state of Ghana now in that proper context. The economy. They criminally managed our economy. We ought to understand that. See, when you talk about economy, what is an economy? An economy essentially is the state of any region, in this case, a nation, Ghana, in terms of its production and consumption of goods and services and the supply of money. We know that the role government plays in the economy is in the fiscal and monetary. How did they use the fiscal and monetary? It came on the back of transformation. We are going to change the Gadisbergen economy. And then one of their fundamental programs, 1D1F, they spent just 400 million Ghana there and spent 5 billion on NAPCO. 5 billion on NAPCO. They attacked our intermediary structures, the banks. They told us that they spent about 25 billion to deal with a 9 billion problem. That's what they did. And they're not ashamed to go on mentioning Russia, Ukraine. Why has the war in Russia, Ukraine ended? Farana, beyond Russia, Ukraine, we are hearing Iran, we are hearing Maduro. The world has never been disrupted like now. And yet, in the midst of it, my brother Zabo wants to tell me that what's called, they brought it to 22, and so it does not, and that inflation does not drop like mango. In fact, inflation has dropped like mango. Inflation has dropped like mango from 22 to what, 3.9. Is that no mango dropping in 1 year? Is that no mango dropping? And that mango is dropping, and we still have Russia-Ukraine raging. We have all the security issues in the Middle East. You understand? We have the tariff war, the economic war that was waged relentlessly in the early days of this year by the US and China. And Ghana found itself in a position where we could not go on the international market to borrow to deal with these problems. We could not, because of their recklessness. And in spite of all that, we've seen a miraculous recovery of the fiscal side and the monetary side of our economy. When they say treasury bill has dropped to about 6%, do you know what it means? That is one of the most fundamental statements any government can make. Because we know that one of the biggest problems our economy has been faced with is the crowding out of the private sector by the high treasury rate. So when government says that, listen, run a treasury rate is 6%, he is telling the banks that I'm not interested in your money. And I can tell you, as being a private sector person, that for the first time since President Kufuor left office, and also during Atamil's time, you have banks right now today chasing private sector to give them money. But they have funds that they don't have anywhere to take the funds to. And so that is the proper context to place this. So when the president in his statement in the State of the Nation says that, listen, I've built the foundation fasten your seat belts, because we are going to have a take-off. The president is giving a signal to the market. The president is giving a signal to the players of our economy that have laid the foundation. And the president is doing all he's doing because he is doing politics from the right place. He is doing politics whose interest is in Ghana. He is doing politics whose interest is to create virtuous men. He is doing politics that aims to create a flourishing country. That's the politics that is being done now. And you see that in how the cocoa issue has been handled. You see that because you see, the president is confronted with a cocoa scenario. Now they are claiming that he gave a campaign promise. Now when you listen to what they are saying, they say, listen, for those of you whose cocoa are part of the backlog, we are not going to reduce the price for you. Because mind you, the backlog people, they are not reducing the price for. The new cocoa, that one is the 2 points. Now, you see, interestingly, if I'm supposed to do a comparison between how Nana Addo handled this same situation, you know, there was a point where cocoa international price was around the price today, when the exchange rate was around 11, and yet the Nana Addo gave the cocoa farmers 1,300. At that time, it represented about 32%.
They have always been doing 32%.
Now, this cocoa that made them take cocoa pots to Parliament, without realizing that what they did was to advertise for us, the UP. They didn't even realize it. They were so engrossed in their parochialness that they didn't realize that the cocoa, the golden pots, was to do a free advert for the UP. Because in that original UP, their symbol was cocoa. Their symbol was cocoa. Today, the 2,005 something that they are giving the farmers represents more than almost about 90% of the international price. So now, if you are supposed to compare which government has the interest of Ghana at heart and which government was doing politics to advance their parochial agenda, so they shouldn't go there. And this week we are waiting for them. They should bring the jandam. The people of Ghana will tell them that, listen, they are ready and they are willing to expose the familiar spirit that exists, and that we have opposition, one that is responsible and one that is irresponsible. You understand? But having said that, there are significant things happening in Ghana today. Very significant things that we ought to take note of and push. Now, in my view, one of the most significant things I've seen in my young life in politics is in the institutionalization of the 24-hour economy. That is huge. That is huge. And I'll tell you why. You know, now history is the best teacher. Now history will tell you that after the Second World War, the world was in a very bad place. Because the Second World War came at the back of the Great Depression. The Great Depression from 1929, by 1929, then 1939, then the Second World War. So imagine close to about 15 years of an economic destruction. So when they finished the Second World War, the world essentially didn't have any economy. Now how did they resurrect the economy to the extent that the period between the 50s up until about 1979 is known as the baby boom era? People flourished to the extent that they were giving birth plenty. You understand? Housing. What happened? Now in Europe, America implemented what we call the Marshall Plan. They had a Marshall Plan. A plan that led to the resurrection of the Western European economy. And in America itself, Dwight Eisenhower, that's the general that led the victory in the Second World War for the Allies, led the passing of a law called the Small Business Act. Now the Small Business Act created the Small Business Agency. Now what was the essence of that law? By way of that law, these SBAs gave small businesses, one, institutional support, and two, financial support. Because if there's one thing that is right, they are talking about jobs, and you see, you think jobs are created in space. If there's one thing history has taught us, that jobs are created by the SMEs, by the small and medium scale enterprises. So that if you're a country and you want to create jobs and you want to institutionalize it, then you must create jobs, that you must create laws, institutions that deals with the SME situation. Now go and read the 24-hour economy. When they've institutionalized it, they've created a 24-hour authority. Now what's the function of that 24-hour authority? That's something we should be discussing. What's the duty of the 24-hour authority? And you go into the 24-hour authority act, and beyond the creation of the authority, it lays out the functions of authority. Key amongst them is in a building, building systems that will promote and aid the small and medium scale enterprises, both in terms of institutional support and also in terms of their financing. You understand? So for me, I'd have rather us, in the spirit of our Ghanaianness, debating on whether or not first of all the capacity of the authority, and whether or not more can be done to aid in the SMEs by this law. And obviously, as time goes by, we'll be debating it and we'll be giving our views. It's excellent. There are more that can be done, but at least it's been institutionalized. Right now, we have an authority whose sole function is to deal with creating a situation where jobs will be created, creating a situation where we have an economy that runs for 24 hours. Instead, when you say 24-hour economy, you can see them. It does not mean that, you see, when you go to the US, the very big economies in Japan, you think the state institutions, they work for 24 hours. Sometimes when I hear some of these comments, I laugh. When you say 24 hours, it does not mean that, let's say, the managerial institutions, so let's say as in GRE, or as in, and the workers there, all the workers there will work, or as in, it's not possible. You understand? But what it means essentially is that you've created a system where generally production and consumption can happen for 24 hours. So that's some actually thing as some of our brothers in the center, you worry yourself. You understand? What's called, if they say DUL will work 24 hours, it means that it's not necessarily about everybody being there for 24 hours, but create a system for the DULA where they can produce, where people can consume for 24 hours. But the most important thing is create a system where the production side of the economy, so in terms of our factories, in terms of we'll be working 24 hours all the time. Indeed, when you read the act, they anchor the 24 hours on 3 key pillars. It tells you the clarity of thought of the government. The first pillar is what? In production, transformation at the production level. When you say transformation, what does it mean? When you say transformation, what they are saying is that they are going to shift the factors of production from the less productive sides of the economy to the more productive sides of the economy. That's essentially what they are saying. 2, right now you are talking about glut. We have glut because when people were in power, and previous governments, we've not deliberately dealt with the supply side of things that deals with the consumption. We have not dealt with it. In our GTP is there, in our Great Transformation Plan is there, and I'm glad that in the 24-hour economy, I said that one of their core anchors is in the supply side. So we're talking about the supply side. It was in the supply chain, from how it's produced to when we consume, and at every stage of the supply chain, you can make an economy there. So you've produced, let's say, agric, you've produced the produce at the farm gates. How does it get to the supermarket? You understand? You must have a program that will deal and ensure that an economy can be made at every sector. You understand? The government should be interested in large supermarkets and all. But you see, Prof made a very good point, but it means that the government must also deliberately look at laws that protect the consumers. You can't have an economy that will run well where you do not have laws that protects the consumer. It means that you're going to enact laws that would facilitate competition, that will not help monopoly creation. I mean, I'm talking about antitrust laws here, and we should consider it. If we really want to do that, we should consider things like that. But you see, those are suggestions that can be later. The point is that right now, the state of Ghana right now is that we have institutionalized the 24-hour economy. We've made it into law. It's an institution. Right now, it's not about whims and caprices You understand? Something they failed to do with the what's it called? The free SHS. They did it, and we saw the chaotic nature of it. When we were giving our advice on the one, they didn't institutionalize all these policies. I'm talking about Zabo's people. Yeah, they did, and now they can talk. They can talk because for them, I had to name the word gendarme. They are a propaganda machinery. So they sat down and because for them all that matters for them is how do we get power? How do we sustain ourselves in power? You see, their thinking does not include how do we do our politics that will create virtuous men. How do we do our politics that will create an environment where we will flourish? That is not their politics. And so yesterday, beyond the president talk about the economy and what they've done, he also didn't forget about another fundamental duty of government, which is to protect the liberties of its citizens. I heard him mention the JIJ thing. That himself is a journalist, and where the journalist was beaten. But beyond that, in how they've handled this call for accountability, you understand? I think every day on the airwaves, Ghanaians are baying for blood because of the evil these people. See, anytime you see that hole, and that hole is 97 million, you consider that a former minister, a very senior cabinet minister, can be accused of crass abuse of the economy that goes into criminal elements, and he can go to America and say that I won't come, and yet they have not fallen into the temptation of pleasing the core at the expense of breaching fundamental constitutional rights. You understand? I have my own disagreements there, and that specifically has to do with the Kokomo people. I don't know why for over a year no serious investigation is going on there. Over a year is now that you understand. But having said that, you can clearly see the commitment of the president in this stewardship to upholding the values and principles of the rule of law. And I think that we should support him. We should support him, and I support the Attorney General. You know, he should continue with his press conferences, because when you read our constitution, it said justice is done in the name of the people. Justice emanates from the people. You understand? And he's using powers that belongs to us. So he should continue with the press conferences. You see the health sector. We've had issues with the emergency. Now my confidence that this matter will be dealt with, as whether it can be totally solved, I don't know. But my confidence that this matter is going to be dealt with is because, once again, of the place the present politics comes from. Is a place of how do I do my politics that will create virtuous men. And you cannot create a virtuous man without having a very strong health system. Because you know that right now, per WHO rules, my doctor is here, he'll confirm. Every an area with 1,000 people ought to have at least 5 beds that are emergency. So if you take the population of Ghana, we ought to have 170,000 emergency beds. When the president of Ghana was talking about gender 111, did you think about that? When Kweku Menu, you know, when the issue about Kweku Menu, Ajima Menu came, where he was alleged to have siphoned more than $80 million. And see, that allegation was in the Auditor's General report. I heard them say that we say all right, 2 billion. What the people are claiming is based on the Auditor General's report about that 2 billion is missing. And yet the president, because his policy is how to associate myself in power, he cracked jokes with it. If you recall, at that time they did not know that our emergency health situation was even past the borderline. and that loads and loads of Ghanaians were dying simply because we just did not have the infrastructure. But most importantly, that because of the politics himself was doing, a politics that did not have the Ghanaian at the center of it, a politics that did not value human life, that culture was trickling down to the base. When you say you're a leader, your biggest duty was, you see, you cannot create virtuous men without changing the culture, the value set of your people. But it's such a serious. He went and said, he didn't do anything to him. He didn't do anything to him. He guys stayed in power till. You understand? So for me, Ghana is in a good place. But you see, Ghana is in a good place because of the kind of leadership we have. Now, I'm employing on His Excellency John Mahama that is not enough that he probably is a good leader. Because he's a good leader. He is a good leader. One thing I've been wondering is, how did these people manage to use Jandam to paint him as a devil between 2013 and 2016? The power of their propaganda is sharp, and the Ghanaians should open their eyes. His Excellency John Mahama should use his time to create strong institutions. Because if we want a Ghana where we get the likes of Nana, I pray we never get a leader like him. But in the unlikely event that we get a leader like him, the institutions will be so strong. The institutions will be so strong that the impact, and the impact he had was to almost kill this country. Create a situation where people started questioning constitutional democracy, which is essential if we are to attain the end of why we do politics in the first place, to create virtuous men. Because you cannot create virtuous men in an environment where the liberties of the people are undermined. You cannot create virtuous men in an environment where the people do not have confidence in their political leaders. You cannot create virtuous men in a system where people fundamentally do not trust their economy. Because Nadu broke every bond that existed between holders of political power and the ability to use that political power to create virtuous men. After all, what does Economy 101 say? It says that the safest place to place your money is with the government. By the time Nadu was leaving power, he had broke that fundamental relationship between the people and government. You get the picture. Now, also, yesterday, listened to him, and I listened to just a small bit of it. I saw a president that understands Ghana's position in our international politics. You see, and it was refreshing listening to him on the back of our discussion on Kwame Nkrumah. Because if there was one gift Kwame Nkrumah bequeathed us, was to place Ghana on a very serious international political pedestal. Ghana is the leader of the Pan-African agenda. To extend that we had a leader who was ready to sacrifice, rightly, Ghana's sovereignty, a bit of Ghana's sovereignty for the greater Pan-African agenda. A president who understood that Ghana alone cannot take its place in the Committee of Nations in terms of the economy. That for our political independence to lead to our economic independence, then Africa needed to be one. Strangely, Nebu, Nebu threw that into the gutters. He didn't understand the special relationship that is there between Ghana, Guinea, and Mali. The symbolism of why most of West Africa have red, yellow, green, and the star. He didn't understand that. And that he was ready to lead an ECOWAS effort against our brothers in Mali and in Guinea without any recourse to the historical bond that exists between us. He didn't understand. We had a president who didn't have any qualms to go to America and dig a concern about Burkina Faso. He didn't understand the bond between Ghana and Burkina Faso. See, the biggest tribe, about one of the biggest tribes in Burkina Faso is the Moshi people. is the Moshi people. Now, simple history will tell you that the Moshi people are part of the Gbewa and Agbewa. You know, the Dagomba, Mampusi, they are from the same Moshi is part. So Dagomba and Mampusi, their sister is Yeniga. And Yeniga is the mother of the Moshi people. Beyond that, the special relationship between Moshi and even Ashanti. So Burkina Faso and Ghana, we are one. And so when you are present and you do not understand this, and you go and do concern, you go to America and go and do concern. You understand? You lead effort. You understand? Then you are living, and you know the Sahel, the Sahari, what's called issue with Morocco, and you in your last, Israel and Palestine have issues. Ghana has its position. We are not aligned. We've always been non aligned, and our position has been two-state solution. But the president goes and he goes and votes for Israel, undermining Ghana's position as a leader in this Pan-African agenda. But you see, that is also being restored. There's a reset there too. There's a reset. And you see the swiftness to which West Africa agreed that, listen, when we is attempt to produce the AU leader, it's Mahama.
Unanimous.
You understand? When he comes and quickly he appoints an envoy, even though Guinea, Mali have left ECOWAS, he appoints an envoy, and a very senior person to be the envoy. To what end? To find a way of maintaining, possibly bringing them back into the Committee of West African States. That is leadership. That is leadership that understands that the purpose of that political power is to create virtuous men. Now you cannot create virtuous men in an environment that will not allow them to flourish. That you cannot create virtuous men where you don't understand that for their good they need to have a very healthy relationship with your neighbors. That to create Ghanaian virtuous men, that it requires that the position that Ghana was in as a Pan-African leader be restored. You cannot create virtuous men if your own leader, your own leader undermines everything. And it's no wonder that His Excellency President Mahama can go to the UN and speak like he spoke about the reparation. We have a leader now. That's the state of Ghana. The most important thing is that right now we have a leader. We have a leader who is restoring the virtue that was lost in terms of our political environment. We have a leader who is restoring confidence, credibility in our economy. We have a leader who hopefully can change the political culture in Ghana from one that largely has been very parochial to one that is patriotic. And because we have such a leader, I'll once again use your platform to call on every single Ghanaian, every Ghanaian whose ultimate aim is to see Ghana succeed, that we will criticize where the need be. We will strongly oppose where he's going astray, but largely we are going to throw our weight behind this our leader to create a Ghana that for all intents and purposes will be more than capable to create virtuous men. Because when we do that, then the aim of Ghana, of Osajefo, on 6th March 1957, that Ghana shall be the Black Star of Africa, that aim will be achieved. You understand? And to do that, then everybody must be brought on board. And that's why we are going to extend our hand to our brothers who have backslidden in terms of their political agenda, who have allowed themselves to be consumed by familiar spirits. Evil spirits, if you are confused. When I say familiar spirit, I mean evil spirits. Our brothers who have consistently placed the interest of themselves, the interest of their party, at the expense of the national interest. That we have a nation to build. That politics is a call. And that if they themselves do a self-introspection and they feel that they are not capable of doing politics in whichever form, shape, whether in power or in opposition, if they are not capable of doing politics that will lead to the creation of righteous men, then they should go and sleep. And those of them who think they can repent, that they should all come on board in line with our political agenda as Ghana, that all of us as Ghanaians will build this strong nation that will take its rightful place as the Black Star of Africa.
Thank you.
Arrest.
Thank you very much. And of course, this comment from Papa Bisiu says the best SENA in the history of Ghana, full of positives. Example, settling all debts in the gas sector and not owing ENI and the rest. Fast forward, lots of projects upon projects on the way. Example on roads, upgrade of Accra International Airport developmental projects, so refreshing, backed by good agricultural initiatives. The future is very bright for Ghanaians. Papa Bisiu sent that from Spinters. Thank you very much for those comments. There are many other comments that I have to go through, but we have to move on to the matter of the discussion of emergency health care in Ghana. The president himself commented on it. I realized that Dr. Aye has some issues from the first discussion.
Yes, basically, but I don't think that that's lawyers spoken extensively about it.
Okay.
I don't think that I want to do.
Then you can lead the discussion, especially with your background on the emergency. So when it comes to your turn, you can just put it in, because I don't have the. Yes. No, you can't. No. He's free to. He's free to, but as the rules are, he must do it on his time.
Yesterday, the president spoke concerning the reforms at Cocoa, and I want to reiterate that we must be very careful as a people. In the coming weeks, there will be more attacks on Cocoa Board, so that the MPP can revive their party. Do you know that over $150 million of procurements have been cancelled at Cocoa Board, and these are procurement that were fraudulent. These are procurement that were not in the interest of the state. That's about 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. The very people who were beneficiaries of this contract have now contracted people to come and attack the leadership of Cocoa Board, Dr. Randiabe and his deputies. So from now you'll be hearing stories, a lot of stories, and these are in bad faith. We must be very, very, very careful. And you spoke about the leadership that builds strong institutions. You know, when President Mama came, now we've instituted commitment authorization, that you cannot go and enter into any contractual agreement without approval of the finance minister. When President Mahake, you could have also said that, oh, let's continue the procurement. Let's waste money, let's borrow, let's spend without budget, like what they did with Cocoa Rose. But we've instituted commitment authorization. You cannot go and enter into any agreement with anybody. These are the systems that we need to build as a country. I have also heard, and I was at the president's encounter with the private sector, that from now, the 24-hour economy is looking at some proposals to even amend our procurement law, that all government procurements, about 50% of them should be locally sourced. So that things we can produce in Ghana, you do not go and import them from China, to build our local industry. That is how visionary and forward-looking the president and the institutions are looking at. So that is what I wanted to respond to. As for electricity hikes and what have you, my brother made mention of it. In 2023 alone, they increased electricity about 52% under the MPP. You go and increase electricity by 52%, then you come and criticize the government that has done only 27% in 1 year. You went to IMF to tell them that we will do a quarterly tariff adjustment, and then in September we will do a major tariff adjustment. Then when you are done, you turn yourself and come and criticize the government that because of your arrangement they are bound by it to implement. You understand? So I will not even go there. Now to the health issues. To be very honest with you, I was very shocked and set aback by what happened with the guy, I've forgotten the name, I think it's called Charles.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it happens a lot of time in many hospitals. Many people have died because of this. In one breath, we need to admonish our health personnel about the need for them to even go extraordinary miles and extraordinary lengths for people who are driven in. One day you may be there, and I listened to Professor Titus Bayo. You do not know when you will be in that situation where somebody has to make a call, and the person will be able to make that call because you are the one who is supposed to make that call. That is how deep that statement was. But as a country, we are also saddled with major health difficulties and infrastructure gap. Look, Council made a point that out of every 1,000 population, we need about 5 beds. Do you know that as Ghana does not even have 1 bed out of the 5? We have 0.9. Wow. Yes. They are doing 0.9. Greater Accra is doing 0.5. Yes. Greater Accra is doing 0.5 out of the 1 of the 1,000. So 1,000 people in Accra do not have 1 bed to sleep on when the need arises. The whole Ghana, we are doing 0.9. We are not even up to 1 bed. Me, when I was at Ranger Hospital as a doctor, the emergency department, and there was a time they didn't have an ECG machine. Do you know what an ECG machine does? When somebody has a heart attack, when you have a heart attack, there are so many causes. One major cause is that the blood vessels that supply the heart, a vessel can be blocked by a blood clot, by fat, or anything. If it is a blood, because the supply is not going there, the electrical activity of that part of the heart does not work, because it needs the blood to be able to fire and to do other things so that you can survive. You need an ECG machine to connect to your chest so that you can detect where the electrical activity is not working. That's when you know where the problem is. So if you don't have an ECG machine, how will you diagnose the person? It's too small for me to even talk about a whole country. No. They got to a time they didn't have. You have to walk from the ground zero to the 4th floor. They have patients on the ward that they are using. And so when you are rushed in, what they will tell you is that wait a little and let's bring it. By then they will also be walking around looking for it. If it is a heart attack, they will tell you to go to another hospital. The best they will do is to give you a painkiller. Painkiller too does not solve a heart attack. You understand? There are several situations in our hospitals, and it's terrible, extremely terrible. You go there, labs are not working. Some of them don't even have the reagents to do the test. X-ray people too have closed. CT scan people have closed because their machines are even spots. You go to some hospitals, normal consumables they don't have. You understand the point? You have to go and buy a line, giving set and what have you. They are all things that happen in our sector. But we've come a long way. The emergency medicine, at first, we did not have emergency medicine training in Ghana. Now we are doing it. Once I talk about the weaknesses, I need to talk about the strengths. We now do emergency training of doctors and nurses in Ghana by the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. Now we have proper structured emergency departments in major hospitals like Kolebu, Konfanoche, where they have resuscitation base and observation base and what have you. Now we've been able to develop proper emergency triaging system. Ghana, we are using the South African triaging system, where it is graded in red, orange, yellow, and green. Depending on red means that the person will die in the next 5 minutes. You need to see the person. Orange means that the person can die in the next 0 to 10. You understand? Yellow means that you need to get about 30 minutes to see the person. Then green means that the person can survive for the next 4 to 24 hours. So it's more like an OPD case. We use the system. Those systems were developed because of how the emergency system in Ghana was evolving. Yeah. Now we've been able to develop protocols. Do you know at first maternal mortality was about 439 per 100,000 in Ghana. Now because of protocols we've done, we are doing about 102. You understand the point I make? We've developed protocols. When you go to hospitals, you see that they've drawn protocols on the wall so that when a case like that you don't even need to think as a health person. Yeah. You know the protocols to follow. Magnesium sulfate protocol, labetalol protocol. There are lots of protocols that have happened that we have been able to do as a country, but we are not there yet. There is a huge infrastructure gap we need to fill as a country. And I trust the Mama. You know, when he was in government between 2013 and 2016, a lot were done. Many district hospitals built, many polyclinics. Today, you know that when the 2025, when the finance minister read the budget, they actually gave 10% of the Assembly Common Fund for constructing health facilities and cheap compounds. At the end of the year, if we were able to build a number of them, we increase our bed capacity as a country. You understand my point? So it is tragic and it is terrible that we have to see a situation, and it must be a wake-up call for all of us. That even if you are a politician and you need to be flown out of Ghana to another country, if you are not stabilized, no plane will carry you. Yeah. Who should stabilize you? Yeah. It has to be the hospital in Ghana. So if you don't have proper hospitals in Ghana, you can't even travel. So we are at risk. All of us are at risk. When you are hit by a car, you are involved in an accident just here, we have to send you to a hospital. If you don't have the proper transport system to a health sector or a hospital that will take care of you, you will die. No matter the amount of money you have in your bank, because when you are sent to a hospital, they don't check your bank accounts. Yeah. Systems must be put in place to stabilize you before you can talk and tell them where your bank accounts is. Do you have that system or not? You don't have. And so it is a wake-up call, and I agree with the president that even if you do not have the space for a bed, ambulances have stretchers in them. Those stretchers can be folded into a bed. Health workers, doctors and nurses must show. And I know by our training, we are trained to empathetic and sympathetic. Many doctors do it. Me, when I was practicing, and my colleagues, at the end of every month, we used to save about 1,000 cedis of our salaries so that we put the money down. When a patient comes and they don't have money and they need urgent medical care, we use our money to pay. And many nurses many nurses and doctors all across the country do it. There are people who come in, they don't have money to buy drugs. People who come in and go and they are sorted, they leave their drugs behind, we keep them. When new people come and they don't have money, we serve them with them. So a lot is being done by our health professionals. Just that a lot more can also be done, just like we saw in this. And Prof spoke about the emergency, the ambulance service. He said that they only pick and send you to the hospital. During the transport, are they trained enough to save you? Can they set a line? Can they do a CPR? Can they can they do an ECG and what have you? To what extent is their training? Okay. He spoke about it. And also, do you know that when you call an ambulance, you need to pay before they send you? When you get an ambulance, so they have to also buy fuel. How many? So if you are knocked down by a car and you don't have money, they pick you. Or even you are at the hospital, you need to be transferred urgently. Your family people have to pay money before they transport you. So what really is the essence of the ambulance service if you have to pay before you are sent? Are we dedicating enough money to the ambulance service to run this system? Because if one is down and you tell the person to pay 400 cedis before they transport you, how many people can have that 400 cedis to get transported? It means you are going to die. And so there is so much we need to do as a country. And as a medical doctor and as a health person, I have lived some of these experiences, and it is tragic, completely unfortunate. We need to do something about it. And I know on the part of government, The solution is to build the hospitals, expand the infrastructure, get the necessary accoutrements for health personnel to work. If there is space in the hospital, no health worker will retain any patients, because at the very least we are there to work. Is that not it?
Yes.
We are there to work, but the systems will frustrate you in a way that you as a health person, you have to throw your hands in despair in some of the cases. That's not to say that should be done.
Okay.
But the system is very, 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 very unfortunate. We need to work on it.
Thank you. Thank you. And after Doc, each of you have 5 minutes to comment on this. I start with you, Sabo.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I think because of the time limit, let me be snappy here. With regards to the energy sector debt that they were mentioning, I think there's something that I've realized that the NDC has been doing. They make it look as if it is MPP who came to accumulate debt at the energy sector. But as at the time we were ushered into power, 2017, we came to meet a debt stock of 21.864 billion Ghana cedis. So if you are talking of whatever debt that you met, in fact, you need to give credit to the MPP as far as this particular debt is concerned. Quite apart from that, we kept the lights on throughout. In fact, he was talking about the lights. In fact, my area, and I'm on TV, and I believe even those in my area, outside my area, are watching. Quite recently, they will put off the light sometime in the night, up to the following day by say 3 to 4 p.m. Then they'll bring the light. And when we asked of what was actually going on, that they are going through some maintenance schedule. Up to now, that thing is still ongoing. And in fact, Lawyer Pierre, okay, he said I shouldn't take it this time. But I don't know. Lawyer Pierre, I don't know whether we're discussing the State of the Nation's address or we're discussing lapses in MPP. I don't know. I got confused somewhere along the line, whether he was actually dealing with the State of the Nation's address or he was dealing with MPP.
Did NPP govern Ghana?
He saw, pardon?
Did NPP govern Ghana or not?
No,
NPP govern Ghana at one time or not?
No. But I think we are talking of today, the state of the nation today, and not when NPP was governing. But he chose to. In fact, he chose his own topic and dealt with it. So I'll leave it there like that. I'll not. He's my good friend, so I'll not go much on it. However, the issue of why should when Dr. Amintu was talking about the cocoa bailout, yes, bailout. Yeah. The point is, like you said, I agree with you on so many things, but the other farmers, government does not fix price for them. They operate on the open market, the free market. They determine, in fact, the forces of demand and supply that determine their prices. But with regards to the cocoa farmer, it is the government who fixes. That is why we are called on the government to come to their rescue. But quite apart from that, the rice farmer, the beans farmer, and the rest has the liberty to take his produce to Burkina Faso or wherever to go and sell. But the cocoa farmer cannot do the same. And that is why the government must come to the rescue of the cocoa farmer. That is why I'm calling the government. And I've said that what man has done, man can do. A government has done it before, and a government can do it. Then the next one too is about the aura. Of course.
So you're using your time?
Yeah. I think it's okay. In fact, I was enjoying his submission, especially when a topic and you allow the professional. I believe, in fact, even viewers will say that you should have allowed him to continue talking on this issue. So I've enjoyed it very much. Thanks so much for the education. You see, aura, like we're saying, I agree that we are not in a military regime. But look at how aura started. They were still over people's walls. I'm telling you, when they start, they scale over people's walls. When you are in your room, they come and peep. That kind of thing.
Are you sure?
I'm telling you, so that, no, in fact, most of us were scared because we don't know when they will even spill over your wall. And others were unlawfully detained. Is that not a military reason? Because many of the people that they detain today, up to date, the facts are not out. Based on the reason why, even Hanan, that they talk about so much, as if Hanan has committed some heinous crime today in the court. Those facts are not, it's very difficult for them to bring them to bear. those amounts that they mention and what have you. So it was, in fact, Mora is even more than military regime. In fact, I've seen most of the military this in 79, 81. I've seen all of them. It has never been like Oral like this. They didn't scale over our war. They didn't peep into our rooms and the rest. Oral, they did those things. So I think, and then of course, there was another one to the 1.4.
That will be the last one.
Deal has been. I think Doc was the one who just put that one. That had been cancelled. I have always said, look, it doesn't matter whether the person is MPP or NDC. If somebody decides to embezzle state fund, it is the duty of the government of the day to make sure that he chases that person for our money. That money is ours. So if you have come to discover a deal of this nature, don't let those people go free. Otherwise, it amounts to propaganda and name calling. Go after those people and subject them to the laws of the state and let the law deal with them. But if you sit here and tell us that this is the reason why Arandi Abe and what are being castigated by the opposition party, I don't agree with you. Those who have committed those crimes, go after them, bring them to book, and let us know that indeed you are actually putting everything in their right perspective. Of course, with the health issue, the only thing I want to put is that I think they should always take time to educate us on the diets and our lifestyle. I think these are the most important. For most of the cases, it is on these issues that normally takes them to the hospital. Okay. I think it will go a long way to help us a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Seldel Glad from Germany says, good morning to you and your panelists. The speech of the President at the UN General Assembly clearly stated that the COVID-19 pandemic only exposed the already existing mismanagement of the economy of Ghana by the previous administration. The MPP rep shouldn't throw dust into our eyes. That's a happy weekend coming from you. Doc?
Well, thank you. 5 minutes, yeah. Well, let me use 1 minute to give my brother free advice. You see, when council is talking, you people must listen. You've allowed very fine brains to leave you people. When you see this UP guy, the Solo, this guy from Cape Coast talking, you see them put Ghana first. The problem you people have today is that you've forgotten that you just left power yesterday. And you wrong Ghanaians so much so that we've not even gotten out of the pain. And yet you are staring in our faces with all kinds of noises. That's the problem. So it's better that you people come down, put Ghana before you. You admit that yesterday you didn't do things well. And for that matter, today you are ready to support. Okay, no problem. Well, you will decide. No problem. No problem. And that
this one this is an accusation.
Okay. Whatever it is, it's a friendly accusation because the repair work will take a long time. You need to do things
What is the maid that they are going to repair? What is the maid?
We've talked about them already. So it's a free advice. So the damage is huge and we are in the course of repairs. So you support the process so that Ghanaians will have sympathy for you and then, okay, that's just a free health system. Again, I think it comes down to what I was saying at the tail end of my earlier submission. System. We really need to improve on our systems. Sad to say that life was lost. But systemic deficiencies or challenges cannot excuse for the loss of life. We have to do more. From what Doc was saying, I agree with my brother when he said we should have even allowed him to continue. But these are the nitty-gritty of the real things we're actually facing in the health system. But it is clear and obvious that our inability sometimes to have enough equipment is part of the problem. But maybe attitude too, right? Currently we understand about 40% of the ambulance fleet we have are not functional. About 40%, that is on the high side. So, and that is why, Stabo, when we hear your government wasting resources, we are angered.
You force me to respond.
Don't respond. You keep quiet. Because you see, we have limited resources. So, if you have had opportunity to govern and you didn't put it into education, you didn't put it into health, you didn't put it into good roads, and then 1 year or 13 months into a new government, you have the nerves to be complaining about teachers not being posted, nurses not being posted, and so on and so forth. All these monies that we earlier on mentioned
if they were put into areas of health, education, and roads, etc., do you know the relief it's going to bring to Ghanaians? So that is our pain. That is our pain. Because those resources wasted yesterday had alternative uses. So if we are recounting those things, don't blame us. It is because those misuse have impact on today's occurrences. So one, we need to appeal to government to ensure the needed resources are made available. Of course, all the social service areas need resources, right? So we should have equipment at the hospitals. We should have ambulances. Again, we should have training for our workers to that despite the situation they find themselves, they should do well to also put the human face to some of their interventions so that we don't lose lives unnecessarily. I think I'll end here.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc. Yeah.
This is a shabu. I want to respond to but listen, so Zabo is saying that he disagree with putting Ghana first. That's what he's saying. He disagree with putting Ghana first. But we will put Ghana first and we will make them repent. Now, see, the biggest problem in our emergency health is the politics we do in this country. That's the biggest problem. Because my doc was really saying priority. Where do we prioritize our resources? Because the 0.5 that my brother here was saying, the 0.9. Whose duty is it to provide the hospitals and the beds? Quite far from the doctors, the ones they are there, they work. But we don't even have the infrastructure because of the politics we do here. And you know why some of us will go crazy? Then you think that they spent about 15 million, is it dollars? Don't they, all African gives to eat wache. They said the food they created for the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, you understand? The Malawans. They came to eat wache. 15 million. 15 million. They came to Zabo's people. They gave 15 to eat wache. They ate wache 15 million, and yet we don't have emergency beds. Zabo. So you see why some of us get angry? The politics we do in Ghana. The politics we do in Ghana. The politics that Nibu took to different. So I'm not saying that previously we've done it right. There have always been issues. So in the last 8 years they took it to a different level. And when you consider some of the uses we had for our scarce resources, because health delivery must be prioritized in how government spends their money. We have what's called the PPP Act, the Private Public Partnership Act. If government feels that we have scarce resources, they can take advantage of the PPP. What policy do we have in terms of health financing? Because that's also an issue. Why must my brother Samaye, a young man trying to build his life, why must he sacrifice 1,000 Ghana every month? You understand? So by way of policy. But then the health delivery is also an economy. You understand? And you see, we have very good hospitals in Ghana here. The Bank Hospital can be compared to any hospital in the world. UGMC. But then it comes down to cash. Health delivery in Ghana must not be dependent on your economic situation. But for us to make health delivery independent of your economic situation, then we must have policy, a plan, a program, law that will find a way of ensuring that all these top hospital facilities are open to anybody or irrespective of your financial situation. And that irrespective must not be because Samuel Aye and his friends are so dedicated to preserving life that they feel that they must sacrifice their monies. You understand? You get the picture. So time is gone, but beyond we ensuring that governments do not spend 15 million of our money to go and chop wachi at the expense of emergency health services. That's in view of the fact that some governments have dug a hole and said that is what $97 million. Meanwhile, we do not have emergency beds. Who are crack? If we do 0.5 or 0.9 times 34 million to tell you the amount of beds we have in Ghana, it's 0.9 of 1,000. Yes. If you do the maths, it's sad. It's sad. But why should it be so? But it will be so because of the politics we do here. You understand? It will be so because of the politics. People are ready to spend 15 million to chop wache. We don't have all. So Zabo, repent and be baptized. You understand? In this your moment of repent, Zabo, repent. Put Ghana first. I was Zabo there. I can vouch for Zabo. Zabo puts Ghana first. But the house he's in, so they are forcing him to say what he's saying. But I have private conversations with Zabo. And Zabo was telling that we must build Ghana. But the house he's in, if Zabo comes and say that, they'll go after him. But Zabo, when they go after you, the UP is there. You see the way they held their cocoa pots. UP, which UP again? UP plus. When they change to Zabo, when you put Ghana first, you see, when you put Ghana first, you put, and the elephant that right now we should not domesticate. You understand? They just destroy. You should push him far into the bush. Far. When they come after you, come to UP. You understand? Come to UP. You understand? You come. Rwanda boys root Ghana. I forgot. They want independence. No, but Rwanda boys. What is forgotten is that Rwanda boys want independence for Ghana. So when that room is filled with evil spirits, come to the veranda. Come to the veranda. Come to the veranda. We will receive you. Oh, he's that. Listen. We will refine you. We will renew you. You understand? We will baptize you in the spirit of Ghana. Then when your colleague is saying that put Ghana first, you won't have the courage to say I disagree. I'm done.
Thank you very much. And that concludes our show for today. But in the meantime, there's a lot that has happened over the 3 hours that we have been here. Because now it looks like it's a full-blown conflict in the Middle East. Because Iran is targeting every US base, every US facility in the Middle East. So they've hit many places, including Qatar, Doha, Bahrain. Yes, the Lebanese are talking, and we're also hearing now from the United Kingdom, among others. So, but all this was started by Israel with what they call a preemptive strike. So, only God knows. They and the US started all this, and it's creating an apprehension within the Middle East. Don't forget, whatever happens in the Middle East flows into Northern Africa, then flows to West Africa. That's how come we have the problem we have in Burkina Faso. So it is something that will come to us. Most of the times that didn't get to the US. It comes directly to us. So it's something that we should be worried about. Anyway, big thank you to lawyer Andrew Apia Dankwa, who is the director legal of the United Party, that's UP+. Samuel Aye, Dr. Samuel Aye is okay. So which one do I go with, the presidential staffer or the member of the NEC communication team, and of course a trained physician? And it's nice to see Adam Sabo Abdurrahman, who is the Greater Accra Regional Director of Communications of a new patriotic party. And then to my left is Dr. Aminu Shitu, who is a former UN peacekeeping officer. Well, I am SENA NOMBO. We'll see you same time next week, but don't forget, next week, in fact, this Tuesday, there's a by-election in Ayawaso East. Yes. Well, Sabu has declared. Well, let me thank you to our partner stations across the country. Don't forget, we're live on Pan-African Television, also live on Radio Gold. A big thank you to those of you who followed us on our social media pages. We'll see you same time next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a fruitful week.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.